The crack of her father's fist against the table echoed through the dusty Wyoming ranch house as Amelia Cross heard the words that shattered her world. "You'll marry Harrison Blackwood next month. 40 acres of water rights depend on it." At 20 years old, she'd been sold like livestock to save a dying ranch. But when a mysterious cowboy named Cole Maddox rode into town with an impossible offer of protection, everything changed. Stay with me to discover how one woman's courage rewrote her destiny. And comment your city below so I can see how far this story has traveled. The August sun bore down mercilessly on the Cross Ranch, turning the earth to powder and the sky to burnished brass. Amelia Cross stood in the doorway of the barn, her calloused hands gripping a pitchfork as she watched the last of their cattle huddle around the nearly empty water trough. 3 years of drought had brought them to this, to the edge of ruin, where desperate men made desperate choices. "Amelia," her father's voice cracked like a whip across the yard. "Get to the house. Now." Samuel Cross was not a man who repeated himself. Amelia set down the pitchfork, wiped her hands on her worn denim skirt, and made her way across the scorched earth. Her boots kicked up small clouds of dust with each step, and she could taste the grit on her lips. Something was wrong, more wrong than usual. Her father's tone carried a weight she'd never heard before. The porch boards creaked under her feet as she climbed the steps. Through the screen door, she could see 2 figures in the parlor, her father and a man she recognized but had never properly met. Harrison Blackwood, the wealthiest landowner in 3 counties. His black suit looked obscene in the heat, his gold watch chain catching the afternoon light filtering through the dusty windows. "There she is," Blackwood said, rising from his chair with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He was perhaps 45 with steel gray hair and the soft look of a man who hadn't worked with his hands in decades. "Miss Cross, you're even lovelier than I remembered." Amelia's skin crawled. She'd seen Blackwood at church, at the general store, always watching her with an appraising look that made her want to bathe. "Mr. Blackwood," she acknowledged stiffly, not offering her hand. "Sit down, Amelia," her father commanded. His face was haggard, deep lines carved by worry and sun. The drought had aged him 10 years and 3. She remained standing. "What's this about, Pa?" Samuel Cross couldn't meet her eyes. He stared at his weathered hands, folded on the table like he was praying. "Mr. Blackwood has made us an offer, a generous offer. 40 acres of prime bottomland," Blackwood interjected smoothly, "with full water rights from Willow Creek. Enough to save your ranch, and then some." Amelia's heart began to race. Water rights were worth more than gold in drought country. 40 acres of irrigated land could mean the difference between survival and starvation, but nothing came free from men like Harrison Blackwood. "What does he want?" she asked, though somehow she already knew. "You," Blackwood said simply, his pale eyes fixed on her face. "I want you as my wife." The words hung in the air like smoke from a distant fire. Amelia felt the floor tilt beneath her feet. She gripped the back of a chair to steady herself. "No," she said. "Amelia," her father started. "No." The word tore from her throat. "You can't be serious. You can't just trade me like I'm one of your cattle." "It's not like that," Samuel said, finally looking up. His eyes were rimmed with red. "You'd be taken care of. You'd have a good life. The Blackwood estate is the finest in the territory." "A prison is still a prison, no matter how fine the bars," Amelia shot back. Blackwood's smile tightened. "I assure you, Miss Cross, you would want for nothing. Silk dresses, servants, trips to Denver and San Francisco. You'd be the envy of every woman in Wyoming." "I don't want silk dresses," Amelia said, her voice low and dangerous. "I want my freedom." "Freedom?" Blackwood laughed, a sound like coins dropping into a collection plate. "What freedom is there in watching your family starve? In seeing this ranch turn to dust? Your father owes me $1,200 already. Without this arrangement, I'll have to call in that debt." Amelia turned to her father, shock evident on her face. "1,200, Pa? How?" "Seeds," Samuel said miserably. "Feed. The mortgage payment last winter. Harrison's been helping us." "Helping us into his trap, you mean?" Amelia said bitterly. "Watch your tongue, good girl," Blackwood warned, his genteel mask slipping. I'm offering salvation, not servitude. Many women would be grateful for such an opportunity. Then marry one of them. I want you. The words were flat, final. I've watched you, Amelia. You're strong, good bloodstock. You'll give me fine sons. The casual cruelty of it, the reduction of her entire being to breeding potential, made bile rise in her throat. I'm not a broodmare. No, Blackwood agreed. You're Samuel Cross's daughter. And Samuel Cross is a man who understands his obligations. He turned to her father. Don't you, Samuel? Her father's shoulders sagged in defeat. The wedding will be next month, he said quietly, after the harvest. Pa, no! Amelia grabbed his arm. You can't do this. Mama would never. Your mama's dead, Samuel roared, jerking away from her. She's been dead 2 years, and she's not coming back to save us. This is the real world, Amelia. This is survival. This is cowardice, she spat. The slap came so fast she didn't see it. Her father's hand cracked across her cheek, sending her stumbling. She pressed her palm to her burning face, tears she refused to shed burning behind her eyes. Samuel stood frozen, looking at his hand as if it belonged to someone else. Amelia, Don't. She straightened, squaring her shoulders. You've made your choice. You've sold me to pay your debts, but you haven't sold my soul. Not yet. She turned and walked to the door, her spine straight despite the trembling in her legs. Where are you going? Blackwood called after her. To say goodbye to my mother's grave, she said without turning, while I still can. The screen door slammed behind her and she broke into a run. She ran past the barn, past the empty corrals, past the dying vegetable garden her mother had once tended with such care. She ran until her lungs burned and her legs gave out, collapsing beside the small headstone that marked Elizabeth Cross's resting place. Mama, she whispered to the stone, what do I do? The wind offered no answers, only dust and silence. That night, dinner was a torture of unspoken words. Her younger brother, Thomas, just 16, kept looking between Amelia and their father with confused, worried eyes. He knew something was wrong, but not what. Their father had sworn her to silence until the proper arrangements were made. Amelia, pass the biscuits, Samuel said, his voice carefully neutral. She passed them without a word, without looking at him. Her cheeks still stung, but not as much as the betrayal. Storm coming in, Thomas offered, trying to break the tension. Saw clouds building to the west. Maybe we'll finally get some rain. Maybe, Samuel said. Won't matter, Amelia said quietly. Not anymore. Thomas frowned. What do you mean? Rain could save us. Nothing can save us, she said, standing abruptly. We're already lost. She left her plate untouched and retreated to her small room. From her window, she could indeed see storm clouds massing on the horizon, their bellies dark with promise. But storms could bring destruction as easily as salvation. She'd learned that lesson today. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Amelia? Thomas's voice was uncertain. Can I come in? Yes. Her brother entered, his gangly frame filling the doorway. In the lamplight, she could see their mother in his features, the same gentle eyes, the same determined chin. What's going on? He asked. Pa looks like he's aged 10 years since this morning, and you look like you're planning to murder someone. Maybe I am, she said darkly. Thomas sat on the edge of her bed. Talk to me. She wanted to. God, how she wanted to pour out the whole ugly truth. But looking at his young face, still hopeful despite everything, she couldn't bear to be the one to destroy his innocence. Pa made a deal, she said carefully, to save the ranch. What kind of deal? The kind that costs more than money. Understanding dawned in his eyes. Blackwood. I saw his carriage, his hands clenched into fists. What does he want? What do you think? Thomas jumped to his feet. He can't. Pa wouldn't. Pa would and did. She caught his arm before he could storm out. Don't. It's done. It's not done until you say I do. And if I don't, we lose everything. The ranch, the house, the land Grandpa homesteaded, and Blackwood will make sure Pa goes to prison for his debts. She released him, sinking onto the bed. I'm trapped, Thomas. Her brother sat beside her, his shoulder touching hers. We could run. Tonight. Take the horses and just go. Where? With what money? And what about Pa? Pa sold you, Thomas said bitterly. He made his choice. He's still our father. And he's broken. The drought, Mama's death, the debts, they've broken him. That's no excuse. No, she agreed. It's not. They sat in silence as the storm drew closer, thunder rumbling like distant drums. Finally, Thomas spoke again. What are you going to do? I don't know, she admitted. Pray for a miracle, I suppose. Miracles are in short supply in Wyoming, Thomas said. Then I'll pray for a disaster. A flood. A fire. Something, anything to change the game. Lightning flashed, illuminating her room in stark white light. For a moment she thought she saw her mother's face in the window's reflection, but it was only her own, aged by grief and worry. The next morning brought no rain, only wind that drove dust through every crack and crevice. Amelia rose before dawn, unable to sleep, and went about her chores mechanically. The cattle needed tending, water needed hauling, and life, cruel as it was, went on. She was mucking out stalls when she heard horses approaching. Multiple horses, and cattle, lots of cattle. She stepped out of the barn, shielding her eyes against the rising sun. A herd was approaching, maybe 300 head, driven by a crew of cowboys. Dust rose in great clouds from their passage, and the lowing of cattle filled the air. At the head of the group rode a man she'd never seen before. He was tall in the saddle, broad-shouldered, with dark hair that curled from under his worn hat. His face was tanned and weathered, but younger than she'd expected for a trail boss, maybe 30. When his eyes found hers across the yard, they were the color of sage honey, green and gold mixed. Morning, ma'am, he said, touching his hat. This the Cross Ranch? It is, she said warily. What's your business here? Looking to rest my herd and maybe negotiate some grazing rights. Been pushing hard from Texas, and the boys and cattle need a break. He swung down from his horse with easy grace. Name's Cole Maddox. I'm the trail boss for this outfit. Amelia Cross, she said, not offering her hand. She'd learned to be careful with strange men. He didn't seem offended. Is your father around? I'd like to discuss terms. He's in the house. She hesitated, then added, We don't have much water. The drought. We've got our own water rights arranged further up, Cole said. Just need the land for a few days. I pay fair prices. Money. Her father would jump at the chance for money, even if it was just for a few days grazing. I'll get him. She found Samuel at the kitchen table, staring into a cup of cold coffee. Pa, there's a trail boss here, wants to talk about grazing rights. Life flickered in his eyes. How many heads? Maybe 300. He stood immediately, straightening his shirt. Tell him I'll be right out. She returned to find Cole examining one of their remaining horses, running experienced hands along its legs. Your father coming? He'll be out directly. She watched him with the horse. You know animals. Spent my whole life with them. They're more honest than people. He glanced at her. This is a nice spread. Must be hard with the drought. We manage. Do you? His tone was gentle, but his eyes were sharp. She had the unsettling feeling he could see right through her brave facade. Before she could respond, her father emerged, transformed into the businessman he'd once been. Mr. Maddox! Samuel Cross. I hear you're looking for grazing. The two men shook hands and began negotiating. Amelia started to leave, but Cole's voice stopped her. I'd like Miss Cross to stay, if you don't mind. In my experience, the women of a ranch know the land better than anyone. Samuel frowned but nodded. They spent an hour discussing terms, land boundaries, and prices. Cole was fair, even generous, offering more than the going rate. When they shook on the deal, Samuel looked happier than he had in months. We'll move the herd to the north pasture, Cole said, and I'd like to make camp by Willow Creek, if that's acceptable. Willow Creek's dry, Samuel said. Not the upper section. I scouted it yesterday. Cole's eyes flicked to Amelia. Water always finds a way, even in drought. You just have to know where to look. That evening, Amelia found herself drawn to the cowboys' camp. She told herself she was just being a good host, checking on their guests, but truthfully, she was restless. The walls of the house felt like they were closing in, and every room held reminders of her impending fate. The cowboys had made a comfortable camp, with a large fire and the smell of beans and beef filling the air. They were a mixed bunch, white, Mexican, even a freed slave named Jonas, who played the harmonica beautifully. They welcomed her warmly, offering her coffee and a seat by the fire. "Where's Mr. Maddox?" she asked, accepting the tin cup gratefully. "Boss is checking the remuda," a young cowboy named Will said. "He'll be back directly." "You hungry, Miss Cross?" Cookie made extra. She realized she hadn't eaten all day. "Thank you, yes." The cook, a grizzled older man everyone called Cookie, handed her a plate of beans, beef, and cornbread. "Eat up, girl. You're too thin. Wind could blow you away." She ate gratefully, listening to the cowboys' stories and songs. For a moment, she could almost forget her troubles. These men were free, going where they pleased, answering to no one but their boss and their consciences. "Miss Cross," Cole's voice came from behind her. "Glad you joined us." He settled beside her, maintaining a respectful distance. Up close, she could see the fine lines around his eyes, the scar on his jaw, the calluses on his hands. This was a man who'd earned everything he had. "Your men seem happy," she observed. "I treat them fair. They return the favor." He studied her in the firelight. "You don't look happy, if you don't mind me saying. What makes you think I'm unhappy?" "The way you looked at our horses today, like you were planning an escape." She stiffened. "That's presumptuous." "Maybe." He sipped his coffee. "But I've seen that look before. Had it myself, once upon a time." "And did you?" "Escape?" "Every day." He gestured to the open plains. "This is my escape. No walls, no chains, just sky and possibility." "Must be nice," she said bitterly, then caught herself. "I'm sorry. That was rude." "Truth isn't rude, it's just truth." He was quiet for a moment. "I heard talk in town about you and Harrison Blackwood." Her stomach clenched. "Talk travels fast. He's not a good man, Miss Cross. Good men are in short supply." "Maybe. But bad men are worse than no men at all." She looked at him sharply. "You don't know anything about it." "I know Blackwood had a wife before. A young thing from Denver. She died." "People die." "They do. But they don't usually die with bruises around their throat." Amelia's blood ran cold. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying nothing that wasn't whispered in a dozen towns. But whispers don't make proof, and Blackwood's money buys a lot of silence." She set down her plate, her appetite gone. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I think you deserve to know what you're walking into." He paused. "And because I might have another option for you." Her heart skipped. "What kind of option?" Cole stood, offering her his hand. "Walk with me." Away from the fire. This isn't a conversation for public ears. She hesitated, then took his hand. His grip was firm, calloused, warm. He led her to the edge of the camp where the firelight barely reached. The stars were brilliant overhead, undimmed by city lights. "I need a wife," he said bluntly. She jerked her hand away. "You're no different than—" "Let me finish," he said calmly. "I need a wife on paper. Legal protection. There's a widow in Montana claiming I promised to marry her. I didn't, but she's got influence, and she's making trouble for my business. A wife would end her claims. So you want to use me?" "I want to offer you a business arrangement, a marriage in name only. You'd have your freedom, a place at my ranch in Montana, honest work if you want it. I wouldn't expect anything from you. No obligations in the bedroom, no servitude, just a legal document and mutual benefit." Amelia's mind raced. "What's to stop you from changing your mind? Once we're married, you'd own me just like Blackwood would. I'd sign a separate contract, guaranteeing your freedom, your right to leave after 1 year if you choose, and a settlement of $500. Why would you do that?" "Because I've been where you are. Trapped, desperate, with no good choices." His voice carried old pain. "My father tried to sell me too, in a way. To a life I didn't want. A future I couldn't bear. I ran." But you can't run, can you? Not with your father's debts, not with your brother to think about. She was trembling now, though the night was warm. You've been watching me. I've been seeing you. There's a difference. He stepped closer, but not threateningly. I see a woman too strong for this place, too wild for the cage they're building around you. I'm offering you a key. And what do you get? Really? A solution to my problem. A partner for the ranch work, if you're interested. And maybe, he paused, maybe the knowledge that I helped someone the way I wished someone had helped me. That's awful noble for a cowboy. Nothing noble about it. It's practical. You're capable, smart, and you know ranching. I could use someone like you in Montana. She turned away, looking at the stars. Her mother had always said God worked in mysterious ways. Was this her miracle? Or another trap, prettier than Blackwood's, but a trap nonetheless? When do you leave? She asked. 3 days. That's not much time to decide my whole life. Your life's already been decided. I'm just offering you a chance to change the terms. A coyote howled in the distance, lonely and wild. Amelia felt an answering call in her chest, a desperate need for freedom that threatened to overwhelm her. I need to think, she said. Fair enough. He started to walk away, then turned back. Miss Cross, Amelia, whatever you decide, be careful around Blackwood. His first wife's name was Catherine. She was 19 when she died, about your age. He left her there in the darkness, with the stars and her fears for company. She walked back to the house slowly, her mind churning. As she approached, she saw a figure on the porch, Thomas, waiting for her. Where were you? He asked. The cowboys' camp. His eyes narrowed. That trail boss was asking questions about you in town, about Blackwood, too. I know. Amelia, what are you planning? She sat beside him on the porch steps. I don't know yet. Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. Talk to me. So she did. She told him about Cole's offer, about Blackwood's first wife, about the impossible choice before her. Thomas listened without interrupting, his young face grave. You should go, he said when she finished. What about Pa? What about you? Pa made his choice, and I'm almost grown. Another year or two, and I can make my own way. Blackwood will make things hard for you both if I leave. Harder than watching my sister married to a murderer? The word hung between them, stark and terrible. We don't know he murdered her, Amelia said weakly. We don't know he didn't. She put her arm around him. You're too young to be this wise, and you're too young to be this trapped. They sat together, watching the stars wheel overhead. Somewhere in the cowboys' camp, Jonas was playing his harmonica, the melody drifting on the wind like a promise of freedom. The next morning, Harrison Blackwood arrived at the ranch. Amelia saw his carriage from the kitchen window and felt her stomach drop. He wasn't supposed to come until next week. Something had changed. Amelia, her father called, Mr. Blackwood's here to see you. She smoothed her apron, lifted her chin, and went to meet her fate, or to fight it. Blackwood was in the parlor, immaculate despite the dust and heat. His pale eyes found her immediately, traveling down her body in a way that made her skin crawl. My dear, he said, rising, you're looking lovely. Mr. Blackwood. She didn't offer her hand or a smile. I've come with good news. I've managed to move our wedding up. This Sunday. What? The word exploded from her. That's in 4 days. Yes, the circuit preacher will be in town. It seemed Providence. His smile was cold. Unless you have some objection. She looked at her father, who wouldn't meet her eyes. Pa? It's for the best, Amelia. Sooner it's done, sooner we can all move forward. Sooner you get your water rights, you mean, she said bitterly. Blackwood's expression hardened. I'd watch your tongue, my dear. It's an unbecoming trait in a wife. I'm not your wife yet. Yet. He stepped closer. I've been patient, Amelia. Very patient. But my patience has limits. Your father owes me a great deal of money. Money I could call in today if I chose. Sheriff Morrison is a friend of mine. He'd have no choice but to arrest your father for debt. You wouldn't I? His hand reached out to touch her cheek. She jerked away. I'm offering you comfort, security, position. Many women would be grateful. Then marry them. His hand shot out, grabbing her wrist. Not hard enough to bruise, but firm enough to demonstrate his strength. I want you. Your spirit needs breaking, yes, but that will come with time. Catherine was stubborn too, at first. What happened to Catherine? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. His grip tightened. She learned her place. Unfortunately, she was fragile. Weak lungs, the doctor said. Such a tragedy when she passed. You killed her. The words were out before she could stop them. Blackwood's face went white, then red. Careful, he said, his voice deadly quiet. Very careful, Miss Cross. Slander is a serious crime, and accidents happen on ranches all the time. Your brother, for instance. So young, working with such dangerous animals. The threat was clear. Submit, or Thomas would pay the price. I understand, she said numbly. Good. He released her wrist. I'll send a carriage for you Sunday morning. Wear something pretty. He turned to her father. Samuel, I trust you'll have her ready. Yes, Mr. Blackwood. After he left, Amelia stood frozen in the parlor. Her father started to speak, but she walked past him, out the door, across the yard to the cowboys' camp. Cole was working with a young horse, speaking to it softly as he ran his hands along its flanks. He looked up as she approached, saw her face, and immediately handed the horse's lead to Will. What happened? He asked. The wedding's been moved to Sunday. His jaw tightened. That's sudden. He threatened Thomas. If I don't marry him, if I try to run, he'll hurt my brother. Cole was quiet for a moment. Then we'll have to be smarter. We? My offer stands, but we'll need to move fast. He called over Jonas. Can you and Will be ready to ride out tonight? Sure, boss. Where we heading? Cottonwood Springs. Need you to file some papers and wait for us there. Jonas nodded and moved off. Cole turned back to Amelia. Can you be ready to leave before dawn? Cole, he'll come after us. He'll hurt Thomas. Not if we do this right. He pulled a piece of paper from his vest. This is a bill of sale. For your father's debt to Blackwood. She stared at it. How did you... I bought it from him this morning. Told him I was interested in acquiring land around here, wanted to clear any liens first. He was happy to sell for cash. But that's $1,200. $1,500, actually. He charges interest. Cole handed her the paper. Your father doesn't owe Blackwood anything anymore. He owes me. And I'm forgiving the debt as a wedding present. She couldn't breathe. Why would you do this? Because I can. Because it's right. And because, he paused, because everyone deserves a chance at freedom. I can't accept this. It's too much. It's already done. He studied her face. The question now is what you're going to do with it. She looked at the paper, at the official seal, at Blackwood's signature. Her father was free, which meant Thomas was safe, which meant... Before dawn? She asked. Before dawn. Pack light. Only what you can carry on horseback. What about the ceremony? Jonas and Will are riding ahead to arrange things. There's a judge in Cottonwood Springs who owes me a favor. We'll be married by tomorrow night before Blackwood even knows you're gone. And when he finds out, you'll be my wife. Legally, he can't touch you without going through me. You'd protect me? With my life, Cole said simply. That's what marriage means to me, even a marriage of convenience. She made her decision then, looking into his honest eyes. Before dawn. Before dawn, he agreed. That night, she packed carefully. A change of clothes, her mother's Bible, the little money she'd saved, a photograph of her family from happier days. She wrote 2 letters, one for Thomas, one for her father. To Thomas she wrote, Be strong. Be good. I'll send for you when I can. This isn't goodbye, just see you later. All my love, Amelia. To her father she wrote, You sold me to save the ranch. Cole Maddox bought your freedom and mine. The debt is paid. I hope you can live with your choices. I'm choosing to live with mine. Your daughter, Amelia. She crept to Thomas's room, kissed his forehead as he slept, and left his letter on his pillow. Her father's letter she left on the kitchen table, weighted down with her mother's wedding ring, the one he'd planned to give Blackwood for her. Then she slipped out into the darkness to meet her destiny. Cole was waiting with 2 saddled horses. "Ready?" "Yes." He helped her mount, his hand steady on her waist. "We'll ride hard until we clear the county line. Can you manage?" "I was born on horseback." He smiled, the first real smile she'd seen from him. "Then let's ride." They rode through the darkness, the stars their only witness. Behind them, the Cross Ranch disappeared into shadow. Ahead, the horizon stretched endless and full of possibility. As the first pale light of dawn touched the sky, they stopped to rest the horses. Amelia looked back the way they'd come, then forward to where they were going. "No regrets?" Cole asked. "None," she said, and meant it. "Good." He mounted his horse again. "We've got a lot of miles to cover." "Cole?" She caught his arm. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. This is just the beginning." "I know." She smiled, feeling truly free for the first time in months. "That's what I'm thankful for." They rode on as the sun rose, painting the sky in shades of gold and promise. Behind them lay duty, debt, and despair. Ahead lay uncertainty, adventure, and hope. Amelia Cross was riding toward her new life, and she couldn't wait to meet it. The sun climbed higher as they rode, and with each mile, Amelia felt the weight of her old life falling away like shed skin. But freedom, she was learning, came with its own kind of fear. Every hoofbeat could be pursuit. Every dust cloud on the horizon could be Blackwood's men. "We'll need to stop soon," Cole said, pulling up beside her. "The horses need water and rest." "Can we afford to stop?" "Can't afford not to. A dead horse won't get us to Cottonwood Springs." He pointed to a grove of cottonwoods in the distance. "There's a creek there. We'll rest for an hour." The creek was barely a trickle, but it was enough. While the horses drank, Amelia splashed water on her face, washing away the dust and sweat. Cole watched the horizon, his hand never far from his rifle. "You think he's following?" she asked. "Not yet." Blackwood's arrogant. "He won't expect you to run. By the time he figures it out, we'll be married and gone." "And if you're wrong?" "Then we deal with it." He turned to look at her. "You scared?" "Terrified," she admitted. "Good. Fear keeps you sharp. It's when you stop being scared that you make mistakes." She studied him as he refilled their canteens. "You've done this before." "Run, I mean." "Once." He didn't elaborate, but she saw the shadow cross his face. "Who were you running from?" "My father. He wanted me to be a banker, like him. Had my whole life planned out. What schools I'd attend, who I'd marry, where I'd live. When I was 18, I took his best horse and rode west. Never looked back." "Do you ever regret it?" "Every man has regrets. But living someone else's life would have been a bigger one." He handed her a canteen. "Drink." "We've got hard riding ahead." They mounted up again, pushing the horses as hard as they dared. The landscape changed around them, from the familiar dry plains to rougher country, marked by ravines and mesas. Amelia had never been this far from home, and despite everything, she felt a thrill of excitement. They were perhaps 20 miles from the ranch when Cole suddenly held up his hand. "Listen." At first she heard nothing. Then hoofbeats, multiple horses, riding fast. "Could be anyone," she said hopefully. "Could be." But Cole was already leading them off the trail into a narrow canyon. "We'll wait here." Let them pass. They dismounted, holding their horses' heads to keep them quiet. The hoofbeats grew louder. Through a gap in the rocks, Amelia could see the trail. Her heart sank as she recognized the lead rider, Jake Morrison, Blackwood's foreman. Behind him rode 3 more of Blackwood's men. "They're heading to the ranch," Cole whispered. "They haven't found us yet." They waited until the dust settled, then emerged from their hiding spot. Cole's expression was grim. "They'll reach the ranch by noon. Your father will tell them which way we went. He doesn't know. He knows I was heading to Cottonwood Springs eventually. Blackwood's not stupid. He'll put it together." Cole mounted his horse. "We need to move faster." They rode harder now, pushing the horses to their limits. The sun beat down mercilessly, and Amelia's water ran out. Cole shared his, but she could see the worry in his eyes. They were still 15 miles from Cottonwood Springs, and the horses were flagging. There, Cole pointed to a cluster of buildings in the distance. Watson's trading post. We can get fresh horses. Watson's trading post was little more than a few shabby buildings and a corral, but to Amelia, it looked like salvation. Cole negotiated quickly with Watson, a grizzled old man who seemed to know him. "You in trouble, Maddox?" Watson asked, eyeing Amelia. "Nothing I can't handle." "Blackwood's trouble ain't nothing. Man's got the devil's own temper." "You know him?" Watson spat tobacco juice. "Know of him. Had a girl through here last year, maybe year before. Pretty little thing, scared as a rabbit. Said she was running from him. Gave her food and water, pointed her toward Denver." "What happened to her?" Amelia asked. "Don't know. Never saw her again. But Blackwood's men came through next day asking questions. I told them I hadn't seen nothing." He looked at Amelia. "You running from him too?" "Yes." Watson nodded. "Take the bay mare and the roan. They're my fastest. And take the back trail through Devil's Canyon. It's rough, but it'll cut 5 miles off your journey." "We're obliged," Cole said, paying him generously. "Don't be obliged. Just don't tell him I helped you." They switched horses quickly, Amelia's legs trembling as she mounted the fresh mare. The back trail Watson had indicated was barely visible, winding between towering red rocks. "Can you handle rough terrain?" Cole asked. "I told you, I was born on horseback." "Then let's ride." Devil's Canyon lived up to its name. The trail was treacherous, switching back on itself, climbing steep grades and dropping into narrow valleys. More than once, Amelia's heart jumped to her throat as her horse's hooves skidded on loose rock. But Cole was always there, steady and sure, guiding them through. They were halfway through the canyon when they heard it, gunshots, echoing off the canyon walls. "That's from Watson's place," Cole said grimly. "You think—" "Blackwood's men found him. Come on." They pushed harder, the horses lathered with sweat. The sun was beginning to sink toward the horizon when they finally saw Cottonwood Springs spread out below them. It was bigger than Amelia had expected, a proper town with a main street, shops, and a church steeple rising above it all. "Almost there," Cole said. "Jonas and Will should be at the Cattleman's Hotel." They rode down Main Street, drawing curious looks from townspeople. Amelia was suddenly conscious of her appearance, dusty, windblown, wearing men's trousers she'd changed into for riding. Not exactly how she'd pictured arriving for her wedding. The Cattleman's Hotel was a 2-story building with a wide porch. Jonas was waiting outside, relief evident on his face when he saw them. "Boss?" We were getting worried. "Any trouble?" Cole asked, dismounting. "No, sir. Got everything arranged. Judge Harriman will perform the ceremony whenever you're ready." "Good. Take the horses to the livery. Make sure they're well cared for." Cole helped Amelia down, his hands lingering on her waist for a moment. "You need rest, food. I need to know Thomas is safe. Jonas, send a telegram to the Cross Ranch. Ask after Thomas Cross's welfare. Don't mention our location." "Yes, sir." Cole led her into the hotel. The proprietress, a motherly woman named Mrs. Daniels, took one look at Amelia and clucked her tongue. "Poor dear, you look exhausted. Come on, I'll draw you a bath. Cole Maddox, you should be ashamed making a lady ride like that." "It was necessary, Mrs. Daniels. Men always think everything's necessary." "Come along, dear." Amelia followed Mrs. Daniels upstairs to a clean, simple room. A few minutes later, 2 boys appeared carrying a copper tub and buckets of hot water. When Amelia sank into the bath, she nearly wept with relief. Mrs. Daniels had laid out a clean dress on the bed, simple blue cotton, but clean and properly fitted. "It was my daughter's," she explained. "She's married now, living in California. It should fit you well enough." "Thank you. You're very kind." "Cole Maddox is a good man," Mrs. Daniels said, settling into a chair. "Known him for years. He brings his herds through regular, always treats his men fair, pays his bills, never causes trouble." "How well do you know him?" "Well enough to know he's nothing like Harrison Blackwood, if that's what you're asking." Amelia looked up sharply. "You know about—" "Dear, everyone in 3 counties knows Harrison Blackwood's reputation. And when Cole Maddox rides in with a scared young woman asking for Judge Harriman, it doesn't take much to figure out what's happening." Do you think Blackwood will come here? Probably. But Judge Harriman's as honest as they come, and once you're married legal, there's nothing Blackwood can do. Amelia sank deeper into the water. Marriage. In a few hours, she'd be married to a man she'd known for all of 3 days. True, he'd shown her more kindness in those 3 days than her own father had in months, but still. Having second thoughts? Mrs. Daniels asked gently. Is it that obvious? Every bride has doubts, even those marrying for love. This isn't love. It's a business arrangement. Mrs. Daniels raised an eyebrow. Is it now? Well, I've seen plenty of business arrangements in my time. Don't usually involve men spending $1,500 to free a woman from debt. He told you. Cole didn't have to tell me anything. His actions speak loud enough. She stood. I'll leave you to finish your bath. But let me tell you something, dear. Love comes in many forms. Sometimes it starts with respect and grows from there. And sometimes the best marriages are the ones where both people choose each other, not for passion or property, but for partnership. After Mrs. Daniels left, Amelia finished her bath and dressed carefully. The blue dress fit well, making her look respectable, even pretty. She braided her hair and pinned it up, then studied herself in the mirror. She barely recognized the woman looking back, older somehow, marked by the choices she'd made. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. Miss Cross? It's Cole. She opened the door to find him transformed. He'd bathed and shaved, wearing a clean white shirt and black vest. His hair was still damp, curling slightly at his collar. For the first time, she realized he was genuinely handsome. You clean up well, she said. So do you. He offered her his arm. Judge Harriman's waiting, but if you've changed your mind, I haven't. You sure? Once this is done, there's no going back. She thought of Blackwood's cold eyes, of her father's betrayal, of Thomas's worried face. Then she looked at Cole. Steady, honest Cole, who'd risked everything for a woman he barely knew. I'm sure. They walked to the courthouse together, drawing stares from passers-by. Jonas and Will were waiting outside the judge's chambers, dressed in their best clothes. Witnesses, Cole explained. We need 2. Judge Harriman was a distinguished older man with kind eyes and silver hair. He studied them both carefully. This marriage is of your own free will, Miss Cross? Yes, Your Honor. No one's forcing you? Threatening you? No, sir. Mr. Maddox has been nothing but honorable. The judge nodded. Very well. Let's proceed. The ceremony was simple, nothing like the elaborate wedding her mother had once dreamed of for her. No flowers, no music, no gathering of family and friends, just the legal words that would bind her to this man she barely knew. Do you, Cole Andrew Maddox, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife? I do. Do you, Amelia Rose Cross, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband? She hesitated for just a moment, feeling the weight of the words. Then, I do. The rings? Cole produced 2 simple gold bands from his pocket. They're not much, he said apologetically. They're perfect, she said, meaning it. He slipped the ring onto her finger, his hands warm and steady. She did the same for him, surprised to find her hands weren't shaking. By the power vested in me by the state of Wyoming, I pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride. Cole leaned in, and for a moment, Amelia thought he would really kiss her, but he simply pressed his lips to her forehead, gentle and respectful. Congratulations, Mrs. Maddox, he whispered. Mrs. Maddox. She was no longer Amelia Cross. The thought was both terrifying and liberating. They signed the marriage certificate, Jonas and Will adding their signatures as witnesses. Judge Harriman handed her the document. Keep this safe, he advised. You may need it. They were walking back to the hotel when they heard the commotion. Horses, many of them, thundering down Main Street. Amelia's blood froze as she recognized the lead rider, Harrison Blackwood. He dismounted in a cloud of dust, his face twisted with rage. Amelia! Cole stepped in front of her. Mr. Blackwood. Get out of my way, Maddox. That woman is promised to me. That woman is my wife. Blackwood's face went purple. What? Cole pulled out the marriage certificate. Legally married, not an hour ago. Judge Harriman performed the ceremony. This is kidnapping. I'll have you arrested. On what grounds? My wife came with me willingly. We have witnesses. Sheriff Thompson, Cottonwood Springs lawman, approached warily. Is there a problem here? This man has stolen my fiancée, Blackwood snarled. She was never your fiancée, Cole said calmly. There was no formal engagement, no announcement, nothing but a verbal agreement between you and her father. An agreement that became void when I paid off Samuel Cross's debt to you. Blackwood's eyes narrowed. I have the bill of sale. You signed it yourself. Sheriff, I demand you arrest this man. Sheriff Thompson looked uncomfortable. On what charge, Mr. Blackwood? If they're legally married, then arrest her for breach of promise. Was there a written contract? No, but then I've got no grounds to arrest anyone. The sheriff turned to Amelia. Ma'am, did you marry this man of your own free will? Yes, Sheriff. Did anyone force or threaten you? No, Mr. Maddox has been a perfect gentleman. The sheriff nodded. Then, as far as the law is concerned, there's no crime here. Mr. Blackwood, I suggest you head on home. Blackwood's hand went to his gun. Instantly, Cole's men bristled, hands moving to their own weapons. The street went silent, tension crackling like lightning before a storm. You really want to do this? Cole asked quietly. In front of all these witnesses? For a moment, Amelia thought Blackwood would actually draw. Then slowly, he removed his hand from his gun. This isn't over, he said, his voice low and dangerous. You've made a powerful enemy today, Maddox. I've faced worse. Blackwood turned his pale eyes to Amelia. You'll regret this. When he shows his true nature, when you realize what you've thrown away, you'll beg me to take you back. I'd rather die, Amelia said clearly. Something flickered in Blackwood's eyes, surprise, perhaps, or grudging respect. Then his face hardened again. We'll see about that. He mounted his horse. Come on, boys. We're done here. They watched him ride away, dust swirling in his wake. Only when he was out of sight did Amelia realize she'd been holding her breath. You all right? Cole asked. Yes. She was surprised to find it was true. Yes, I am. That night, they had dinner in the hotel dining room. It was surreal, sitting across from her new husband, wearing a wedding ring, being called Mrs. Maddox by the waitress. We'll leave at first light, Cole said. The herd's ready to move, and I want to put distance between us and Blackwood. You think he'll follow? No, he's angry, but he's also practical. He can't force you to marry him now, and killing me would only land him in prison. He'll find another young woman to torment. The casual way he said it made her stomach turn. Someone should stop him. Someone should, but that someone isn't us. We've got our own lives to live. After dinner, they stood awkwardly in the hallway outside their rooms. Cole had booked 2 separate rooms, as promised. Thank you, Amelia said, for everything, for keeping your word about the sleeping arrangements. I meant what I said. This marriage is whatever you want it to be. Business partners, friends, or more, if that ever changes. But that's your choice to make. What if it never changes? Then we'll be the best business partners in Montana, he smiled. Good night, Amelia. Good night, Cole. She lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, processing everything that had happened. 3 days ago, she'd been a rancher's daughter, promised to a monster. Now she was a married woman, heading to Montana with a man who'd shown her more kindness than she'd ever dared hope for. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Amelia? It's Jonas. Got a telegram reply. She opened the door, took the telegram with trembling hands. Thomas safe. Angry but resigned. Blackwood gone. Be happy, sister. Love, T. She pressed the telegram to her chest, tears streaming down her face. Thomas was safe. It was all she'd wanted. Good news? Jonas asked gently. The best? That's fine then. Boss will be glad to hear it. He tipped his hat. Welcome to the outfit, Mrs. Maddox. We're right glad to have you. After he left, Amelia read the telegram again. Be happy, sister. Such a simple wish. but one that had seemed impossible just days ago. Now, maybe, just maybe, it might come true. The next morning came too soon. Amelia dressed in the riding clothes Mrs. Daniels had found for her, split skirt and a practical blouse. When she came downstairs, Cole was already waiting with the horses. "Sleep well?" he asked. "Better than I have in months." "Good. We've got a long ride ahead." The herd was waiting outside town, the cowboys ready to move. They greeted Amelia warmly, tipping their hats and calling her ma'am with newfound respect. "Where exactly are we going?" she asked Cole as they rode. "My ranch is in the Judith Basin, near the town of Lewistown. It's beautiful country, mountains, streams, grass as high as your waist. Nothing like the dried-up plains you're used to." "How big is your ranch?" "About 3,000 acres. Not huge, but it's good land. I run cattle and horses, have a decent house, good barn. It's not fancy, but it's solid." "It sounds perfect." "Wait until you see it before you say that. Montana winters are hard. Not everyone can handle them." "I can handle anything that doesn't involve marrying Harrison Blackwood." He laughed, the sound rich and warm. "Fair point." They traveled for days, the herd moving slowly but steadily north. Amelia learned the rhythms of trail life: early mornings, long days in the saddle, evenings around the campfire. The cowboys accepted her readily, especially after she proved she could ride and work as hard as any of them. Cookie took her under his wing, teaching her how to cook for a crew over an open fire. "Secret's in the seasoning," he said, showing her how to make biscuits in a Dutch oven. "And never let them complain. They get what they get." Will, the youngest cowboy, barely 18, developed an obvious crush on her, blushing whenever she spoke to him. The others teased him mercilessly, but gently. "Leave the boy alone," Cole said one night after Will had stammered through asking Amelia if she needed anything for the 10th time. "We were all young once." "You're not exactly old now," she pointed out. 32 feels ancient some days." "Why haven't you married before now?" she asked, then caught herself. "I'm sorry, that's personal." "It's a fair question. You're my wife. You have a right to know." He poked at the fire with a stick. "I was engaged once, Sarah. She was the daughter of a neighboring rancher, pretty, sweet, everything a man could want." "What happened?" "She met a banker from Denver. Decided she preferred city life to ranch life. Can't say I blame her. It's not an easy life." "Do you still love her?" "No. Haven't for years, but it taught me something. I'd rather be alone than with someone who doesn't want the same life I do." "And what life is that?" "Freedom, hard work, honest living, building something with my own hands." He looked at her. "What about you? Ever been in love?" "No, never had the chance. Pa kept me too busy working the ranch, and then—" She shrugged. "Then Blackwood happened." "You're young. Plenty of time for love if you want it." She looked at him across the fire, this man who'd saved her, married her, but never touched her beyond what propriety demanded. "What if I don't know what I want?" "Then you've got time to figure it out. That's what freedom means." That night, she lay in her bedroll looking up at the stars. Around her, she could hear the soft sounds of the camp: horses shifting, men snoring, the crackle of the dying fire. She felt safe for the first time in months. No, more than safe. She felt hopeful. They were a week into the journey when trouble found them. Amelia was riding point with Cole, watching for good grazing when she saw the riders approaching. Her heart sank as she recognized Jake Morrison, Blackwood's foreman. "Company," she told Cole quietly. He followed her gaze, his jaw tightening. "How many?" 6, maybe 7. "Get back to the herd. Tell Jonas to get the men ready." "I'm staying with you." "Amelia, I'm your wife." "My place is beside you." He looked like he wanted to argue, then nodded. "Stay behind me. If shooting starts, ride for cover." Morrison and his men stopped 20 feet away. "Maddox." "Morrison, you're a long way from home." "Mister." "Blackwood wanted me to deliver a message." "I'm listening." Morrison's eyes flicked to Amelia. "He's willing to pay." $10,000 for an annulment. You keep 5,000, the lady gets 5,000, everyone walks away happy." "Not interested." "That's a lot of money." Not enough. 20,000. Cole laughed. Morrison, you could offer me all the gold in California, and the answer would still be no. The lady is my wife. That's the end of it. Morrison's face hardened. Mr. Blackwood doesn't like being told no. Then he's going to have to learn. This is your last chance, Maddox. Take the money and walk away. Or what? You'll shoot me in front of my entire crew? Kill my wife? That's murder, Morrison. Even Blackwood's money can't buy his way out of that. Morrison was quiet for a moment, calculating. Then he smiled, cold and mean. Maybe not today. But accidents happen on the trail. Indians, rustlers, stampedes. A lot of ways for a man to die out here. That a threat? That's a promise. Cole's hand moved to his gun. Then let me make you a promise. You or any of Blackwood's men come near my wife or my crew, and I'll kill you. No warning, no mercy. I'll hunt you down like the dogs you are. The tension stretched taut. Amelia could feel the cowboys behind them, ready to fight. For a moment, she thought Morrison would actually draw. Then one of Morrison's men spoke up. Jake, we're outnumbered. This ain't worth dying for. Morrison spat. This isn't over. Yes, Cole said firmly. It is. Tell Blackwood to find another woman to terrorize. This one's under my protection now. They watched Morrison and his men ride away. Only when they were out of sight did Amelia realize she'd been holding her breath. Will he really let it go? She asked. Blackwood? Eventually. He's proud, but he's also practical. There's no profit in pursuing this. But that night, Cole doubled the watch and kept his rifle close. Amelia noticed he positioned his bedroll between hers and the darkness beyond the firelight, protecting her, even in sleep. The next few days passed peacefully. They crossed into Colorado, the landscape changing from plains to foothills. The mountains rose in the distance, snow-capped and majestic. Amelia had never seen anything so beautiful. Wait until we get to Montana, Cole said, riding beside her. The Rockies there will take your breath away. I can't wait. He smiled at her enthusiasm. You're taking to this life well. It's freedom, she said simply. I never knew how trapped I was until I wasn't. Most women would be complaining about the dust and the heat and the lack of proper facilities. I'm not most women. No, he said softly. You're not. Something in his tone made her look at him. For a moment their eyes met and she felt something shift between them. Not passion, not yet, but possibility. Then Will rode up, breaking the moment. Boss, Cookie says we're running low on coffee. There's a trading post about 5 miles ahead. We'll resupply there. The trading post was a rough affair, but it had what they needed. While Cole negotiated with the owner, Amelia browsed the small selection of goods. A piece of fabric caught her eye, deep green, perfect for a dress. Pretty, a voice said behind her. She turned to find a woman about her age, worn-looking but with kind eyes. Yes, Amelia agreed. You with the trail drive? I am. I'm the trail boss's wife. Saying it out loud still felt strange. The woman's eyes widened. Cole Maddox got married? Well, I'll be. He always said he'd never marry again after Sarah. You know Cole. Everyone knows Cole. He comes through regular. Good man. Fair. Not like some. She lowered her voice. You running from someone? Amelia hesitated, then nodded. Thought so. You've got that look. I had it too once. She squeezed Amelia's hand. You're safe with Cole. He's one of the good ones. That night, as they camped by a clear stream, Amelia found herself watching Cole as he moved around the camp, checking on the men, the horses, the cattle. He was good with the men, firm but fair. They respected him, would follow him anywhere. See something you like? Jonas asked, settling beside her with his harmonica. She blushed. Just thinking. He's a good man, the boss. Known him 5 years now, never seen him do a dishonest thing. Why do you ride for him? He gave me a job when no one else would. Black man, even a free one, has a hard time finding decent work. But Cole? He just asked if I could ride and rope. When I said yes, he hired me. Jonas started playing softly. He sees people for who they are, not what they look like or where they come from. Like taking in a runaway bride? Just like that. He smiled. You're good for him, you know. Haven't seen him smile this much in years. We barely know each other. Sometimes that doesn't matter. Sometimes you just know. She wanted to ask what he meant, but Cole approached. Jonas, take first watch. Will's got second. Yes, boss. After Jonas left, Cole sat beside her. You look deep in thought. Jonas was telling me how you hired him. He's a good man. One of my best. Most people wouldn't have hired him. Most people are fools. He was quiet for a moment. My mother was Mexican. I know what it's like to be looked at differently, judged for something you can't control. I didn't know that. Not something I advertise. But in Texas, where I grew up, it mattered. Had to fight twice as hard to prove myself. Is that why you left? Partly. That and my father wanted me to pretend I was pure Spanish, not Mexican. Wanted me to deny half of who I was. He picked up a stick, broke it in half. I won't live a lie. Not for anyone. Is that why you helped me? Because you understand what it's like to be trapped? Maybe. Or maybe I just couldn't stand to see Blackwood win. She touched his hand lightly. Whatever the reason, thank you. He turned his hand over, capturing hers. You don't have to keep thanking me. Yes, I do. Until you really understand what you've done for me. They sat there, hands linked, watching the fire die down. It was such a simple thing, holding hands, but it felt like a promise, not of passion or forever, but of partnership, of two people choosing to face whatever came together. We should get some sleep, Cole said finally. Long day tomorrow. But he didn't let go of her hand immediately, and she didn't pull away. When they finally separated, going to their individual bedrolls, Amelia felt the loss of his warmth. She lay awake for a long time, thinking about this man she'd married. He was nothing like she'd expected. Gentler, deeper, more complex. He could have demanded his rights as her husband, but he hadn't. He could have taken Blackwood's money, but he'd refused. He could have been like every other man she'd known, taking what he wanted without regard for what she needed. Instead, he'd given her freedom. And in that freedom, she was beginning to discover something unexpected. The possibility of choosing him, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. The thought both thrilled and terrified her. The next morning brought trouble in the form of a summer storm. Amelia woke to the sound of thunder rolling across the plains like God's own fury. The cattle were restless, lowing nervously as lightning split the sky. Get up! Everyone up! Cole's voice cut through the noise. Storm's going to spook them! Amelia threw on her boots and jacket, rushing from her bedroll. The camp was chaos, cowboys running for their horses, Cookie frantically securing the chuck wagon. The wind whipped her hair across her face as she ran for her mare. Amelia, get to high ground, Cole shouted, already mounted. I can help. Not with this. If they stampede... His words were cut off by a lightning strike that hit too close, the crack of it deafening. The cattle bellowed in terror and began to run. Stampede! Will's voice was high with fear. The earth shook beneath thousands of hooves as the herd bolted into the darkness. Cowboys rode hard alongside them, trying to turn the leaders, to make them circle. It was dangerous work. One wrong move, one fallen horse, and a man would be trampled to death. Amelia ignored Cole's order and mounted her mare, riding hard toward the chaos. Through the rain and darkness, she could see a figure in trouble. Will, his horse stumbling, about to go down. Without thinking, she rode straight into the path of the stampede. The cattle were a wall of horns and hooves bearing down on them. She reached Will just as his horse fell, grabbing his arm and hauling him up behind her. Her mare, brave and sure-footed, danced between the charging cattle as Amelia guided her to safety. They made it to a rocky outcrop just as the last of the herd thundered past. Will was shaking, clinging to her. You saved my life, he gasped. You would have done the same, she said, though her own heart was racing. Cole found them there a few minutes later, his face white with fear and fury. What the hell were you thinking? I was thinking Will was about to die, she shot back. You could have been killed. But I wasn't. They glared at each other while Will slipped away, sensing this was not his fight. The rain poured down, plastering their clothes to their bodies, but neither moved. "You're my wife," Cole said finally, his voice rough. "My responsibility. I'm not your property." "That's not what I meant." "Then what did you mean?" He dismounted, stood before her in the rain. "I meant that if something happened to you, I'd never forgive myself." The anger drained from her as quickly as it had come. "Cole, you think this is just a business arrangement for me?" he asked. "You think I don't care what happens to you?" "I don't know what to think. You've been so careful, so proper. Because you asked me to be. Because you needed time, needed to trust me." He pulled her from the saddle, his hands on her waist. "But watching you ride into that stampede, thinking I might lose you..." He stopped, struggling for words. "What?" she whispered. "It made me realize I don't want a business arrangement. I don't want a marriage in name only." His hands came up to frame her face. "I want you, Amelia. Not because of any deal or debt, but because you're brave and strong and beautiful, and you make me feel alive in a way I haven't felt in years." She couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. The rain ran down their faces like tears. "But if you don't feel the same," he continued, "if you never feel the same, I'll honor our agreement. I'll never ask for more than you're willing to give." She thought of all the reasons she should step back, should maintain the safe distance between them. But standing there in the storm, with his hands gentle on her face and his eyes full of hope and fear, she realized she didn't want safe anymore. "Cole?" she said, and kissed him. It was nothing like she'd imagined her first real kiss would be. It was rain and desperation and relief all mixed together. His arms came around her, pulling her against him, and she felt safe and wild all at once. When they finally broke apart, they were both breathing hard. "Amelia, don't," she said. "Don't apologize or explain or rationalize. Just let it be." He nodded, pressing his forehead to hers. They stood like that until Jonas rode up, clearing his throat. "Boss, we've got the herd under control. Lost maybe 20 head, but no men hurt except for some bruises." "Good." Cole stepped back from Amelia, but kept one hand on her waist. "Get them settled. We'll do a full count at dawn." Jonas tipped his hat to Amelia. "That was some riding, ma'am." Never seen anything braver. After he left, Cole helped her back onto her horse. "We should get back to camp. You're soaked through." They rode back in silence, but it was a different kind of silence than before. Something had shifted between them. Some wall had fallen. She could feel it in the way he stayed close to her, in the way he helped her dismount, in the way his hand lingered on hers. Cookie had managed to get a fire going under a makeshift shelter. He took one look at them and shoved cups of hot coffee into their hands. "You two look half drowned. Get warm before you catch your death." They sat by the fire as the storm passed, the other cowboys gradually returning. Each one stopped to thank Amelia for saving Will, who couldn't stop talking about her bravery. "Rode straight into them cattle like she was born to it," he kept saying. "Never seen nothing like it." "That's enough, Will," Cole said, but his voice was fond. "Let Mrs. Maddox rest." Mrs. Maddox. The title felt different now, weightier. She was truly his wife now, not just in law, but in choice. The thought thrilled and terrified her in equal measure. That night, as the camp settled down, Cole spread his bedroll next to hers instead of maintaining his usual respectful distance. "Is this all right?" he asked quietly. "Yes," she said, reaching for his hand in the darkness. They lay there, fingers intertwined, listening to the night sounds. Neither pushed for more, content for now with this new closeness. But Amelia was acutely aware of him beside her, of his breathing, of the warmth radiating from his body. "Tell me about your ranch," she said softly. "What do you want to know?" "Everything." She could hear the smile in his voice. "It sits in a valley between two mountain ranges. There's a creek that runs right through the property, never runs dry. The house isn't much, 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, a parlor, but it's solid. Built it myself, with help from Jonas and some others. It sounds perfect. The winters are hard. Sometimes we get snowed in for weeks, and the nearest neighbor is 10 miles away." "Are you trying to scare me off?" "No, just want you to know what you're getting into." "I'm getting into a life I choose," she said firmly. "That's all that matters." He squeezed her hand. "There's something else." Something I should tell you." Her heart skipped. "What?" "The woman I mentioned, the widow who's been causing trouble. Her name's Margaret Spencer. Her husband was my business partner before he died. She claims he promised her his share of the ranch would go to her, but he actually willed it to me. She's been trying to contest it in court. And she wants to marry you to solve the problem?" "That's her solution, yes. She's persistent." "What's she like?" "Beautiful. Wealthy. Used to getting her way." He paused. "Nothing like you." "Because I'm not beautiful." He turned on his side to face her, though it was too dark to see clearly. "You're beautiful in a different way. Real. Honest. You don't pretend to be something you're not." "I'm pretending to be a wife." "Are you?" "Still?" She thought about that kiss in the rain, about the way her heart raced when he was near. "I don't know what I am anymore." "That's all right. We'll figure it out together." They fell asleep like that, hands clasped, bodies close but not quite touching. Amelia's last thought before sleep took her was that this felt right in a way nothing in her life ever had before. The next days passed in a blur of travel. They crossed into Wyoming, then finally into Montana. The landscape changed dramatically, from dry plains to rolling hills covered in grass so green it hurt to look at. Mountains rose in the distance, majestic and snow-capped even in summer. "Welcome to Montana," Cole said, pulling up beside her. "It's beautiful." "This is nothing. Wait until you see the Judith Basin." They were perhaps a day from his ranch when they encountered the Indians. Amelia saw them first, a band of about 20 warriors on a ridge, watching the herd pass. "Cole," she said quietly. He followed her gaze, his hand moving to his rifle. "Crow," he said. "Stay calm." "They're probably just curious." The warriors began riding down toward them, and the cowboys grew nervous, hands on their weapons. "Nobody shoots unless I say so," Cole ordered. "Jonas, tell the men." The leader of the band was an older man with fierce eyes and a dignity that commanded respect. He rode straight to Cole, who met him halfway. "Maddox," the Indian said in accented English. "Running Wolf." Cole raised his hand in greeting. "It's been a long time. You bring many cattle through our land." "I do. As always, I offer you tribute." Cole gestured to Cookie. "Bring 2 steers." Cookie and Will cut 2 steers from the herd, driving them toward the Indians. Running Wolf nodded approvingly. "This is fair." His eyes moved to Amelia. "You have taken a woman." "My wife," Cole confirmed. Running Wolf rode closer to Amelia, studying her. She held still, meeting his gaze steadily. After a moment, he smiled. "She has courage, this one. Not like the soft white women in the towns." "No," Cole agreed. "She's not like them." Running Wolf pulled something from his pack, a beaded necklace, beautiful and intricate. "For your woman." "A wedding gift." Amelia accepted it with both hands. "Thank you. It's beautiful." "You speak truth. That is good." He turned back to Cole. "There are men following you." 2 days behind. They watch, but do not approach. Cole's jaw tightened. "How many?" 5. They have the look of hired guns." "Thank you for the warning." Running Wolf nodded. "Be careful, Maddox. These men have darkness in them." After the Indians left, driving their 2 steers, Cole gathered the men. "We're being followed. Everyone stays alert. We push hard for the ranch tomorrow." "You think it's Blackwood's men?" Jonas asked. "Who else would it be?" That night, they made camp in a defensible position, with rocks at their back and clear sightlines in all directions. Cole posted double guards and kept everyone armed. "You should sleep," he told Amelia. "Tomorrow will be a hard day." "I can't." Not knowing they're out there. He sat beside her, rifle across his knees. "I won't let them hurt you." "I know." She leaned against his shoulder. "Tell me more about the ranch, about the life we'll have there." So he talked, painting pictures with words of mountain mornings and peaceful evenings, of horses to train and cattle to raise, of a life built on hard work and freedom. She could see it all in her mind's eye, could imagine herself in that life, by his side. "There's a spot," he said, "up on the hill behind the house. You can see for miles in every direction. In the evenings, the sun sets right between the mountains, turning everything gold. I always thought it would be a good place to... He trailed off. To what? To build a bigger house. Someday. If I had a family. Her heart clenched. Do you want children? I never thought about it much before. But now. He looked at her. Do you? I don't know. Maybe. If things were different. If we were. She couldn't finish. If we were really married. We are really married. You know what I mean. She did. They were married in law, growing closer in heart, but they hadn't consummated the marriage. She wasn't ready for that. Not yet, and he hadn't pushed. But someday... Ask me again when we're settled, she said. When we're home. Home. The word felt strange on her tongue, but right too. She'd never really had a home. Not since her mother died. The ranch had just been a place of work and worry. But Cole's ranch, their ranch, maybe that could be different. The next morning, they moved out before dawn. Everyone was tense, watching the horizon, weapons close at hand. They pushed the cattle hard, covering ground fast. By noon, Cole pointed to a valley ahead. There. That's home. Amelia's breath caught. The valley was everything he'd described and more. Green grass rippled like water in the wind. A creek wound through the center, sparkling in the sunlight. And there, nestled against a hill, was a house. And barn, solid and welcoming. It's perfect, she breathed. It's home, he corrected. Our home. They were perhaps a mile from the ranch when the shots rang out. Amelia's horse screamed and went down, throwing her hard. She hit the ground rolling, came up to find chaos. Cowboys were scattering, firing back at attackers hidden in the rocks. The cattle, spooked by the gunfire, began to run. Amelia! Cole was off his horse, running toward her. A bullet whistled past his head. He dove, covering her with his body as more shots peppered the ground around them. Can you run? He asked. Yes. On 3, we go for those rocks. He pointed to an outcropping 20 yards away. 1, 2, 3. They ran, bullets chasing them. They made it to cover just as Jonas and Will laid down covering fire. It's Morrison, Cole said grimly, checking his rifle. I recognize his horse. How many? 5, maybe 6. They were pinned down, taking fire from above. Amelia could see 2 cowboys down, not moving. Cookie was trapped behind the wagon, bleeding from a graze on his arm. We're sitting ducks here, Jonas called out. Cole looked around, calculating. If someone could get up on that ridge, flank them. I'll go, Amelia said. No. I'm the lightest, the fastest, and they won't expect it. Absolutely not. She grabbed his face, made him look at her. Trust me, I can do this. He stared at her for a long moment, then nodded. Take my pistol. Stay low. If anything goes wrong, it won't. She kissed him quick and hard, then began working her way through the rocks. Behind her, Cole and the others increased their fire, keeping Morrison's men busy. The climb was treacherous. Loose rocks threatened to give her away, and twice she had to freeze as bullets struck near her position. But she kept going, driven by desperate need to end this, to save the men who'd become her family. She reached the ridge and found herself behind Morrison's men. They were focused on the cowboys below, not expecting danger from behind. She could see Morrison clearly, could probably shoot him from here. But there were 5 of them and only 6 bullets in the pistol. Then she saw it, a pile of rocks balanced precariously above their position. One good push, she holstered the pistol and began working at the largest rock. It was heavy, stubborn, but desperation gave her strength. With a grinding roar, the rocks began to fall. Morrison's men scattered, shouting. 2 were caught in the slide, screaming as they went down. The others turned, saw her, raised their rifles. She drew and fired, once, twice. 1 man fell. Another ducked for cover. Morrison himself charged up the slope toward her, fury in his eyes. You little bitch! She fired again, caught him in the shoulder, spinning him around. But he kept coming, his good hand reaching for her throat. A rifle cracked from below. Morrison stopped, a red bloom spreading across his chest. He looked down at it, surprised, then fell backward. Cole appeared beside her, rifle smoking. I told you to be careful. I was careful, she protested, then threw herself into his arms. The remaining attackers fled, 2 wounded men on 1 horse. Jonas wanted to pursue, but Cole called him back. Let them go. They'll tell Blackwood what happened here. Maybe now he'll understand. They returned to find Cookie patching up the wounded. 2 cowboys had been hit, but both would survive. The cattle had scattered, but could be rounded up. They'd been lucky. Mrs. Maddox, Cookie said, you've got more sand than any woman I ever met. More than most men, too. The other cowboys echoed the sentiment. She'd proven herself beyond doubt. She was one of them now. That evening, they finally reached the ranch. The house was as Cole had described, modest but solid, with a wide porch and windows facing the mountains. Cowboys emerged from the bunkhouse, greeting Cole warmly and eyeing Amelia with curiosity. Boys, this is my wife Amelia, Cole announced. Treat her with respect or answer to me. An older cowboy, Cole's foreman Pete, stepped forward. Ma'am, welcome to the Double C Ranch. Double C? Cole's brand, Pete explained, though I suppose it could stand for Cole and Mrs. Cole now. That night, Amelia stood in what was now her home, looking around the simple parlor. It needed a woman's touch. Curtains, rugs, maybe some flowers, but it was clean and solid and safe. It's not much, Cole said from the doorway. It's everything, she said, meaning it. He crossed to her, taking her hands. You saved us today. Saved me. We saved each other. That's what partners do. Is that what we are? Partners. She looked up at him, this man who'd given her freedom and asked nothing in return, who'd protected her, trusted her, nearly died for her, who looked at her now with such hope and fear and love, yes, love, in his eyes. I think, she said carefully, we could be more than partners. If you're willing to be patient with me, I'll be whatever you need me to be. Right now, I need you to kiss me. He did, gentle and thorough, and she felt something inside her finally settle. This was home. This was right. This was choosing love instead of having it chosen for her. When they broke apart, he rested his forehead against hers. Welcome home, Mrs. Maddox. Thank you, Mr. Maddox. They stood there in their simple parlor, holding each other as the sun set behind the mountains, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. Outside, she could hear the cowboys settling in for the night, the cattle lowing softly, the creek babbling its eternal song. She thought of her father, probably drinking himself to sleep in that dry, dusty ranch house. Of Thomas, who she'd write to tomorrow, telling him to come when he was ready. Of Blackwood, learning that his money and power couldn't buy everything. But mostly she thought of Cole, solid and warm against her, and of the life they'd build together. It wouldn't be easy. Margaret Spencer was still out there. Winters would be hard, and the work never ended. But it would be theirs, chosen freely, built on respect and partnership and growing love. What are you thinking? Cole asked. That my mother was right. God does work in mysterious ways. How so? He sent me a cowboy instead of a prince. Turns out that's exactly what I needed. Cole laughed, rich and warm. And he sent me a runaway bride. Exactly what I needed, too. They kissed again as darkness fell. 2 people who'd found freedom in each other, who'd chosen love over fear, partnership over possession. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges, but tonight they were home. That night, they slept in the same bed for the first time. Just slept, fully clothed, but together. Amelia curled against Cole's chest, listening to his heartbeat, feeling safer than she'd ever felt. He held her like she was precious, one arm around her waist, the other hand tangled in her hair. I love you, he whispered into the darkness, probably thinking she was asleep. She wasn't ready to say it back, not yet, but she pressed closer to him, hoping he understood. Someday soon she'd be ready. For now, this was enough, this closeness, this safety, this choice. The next morning brought a new challenge in the form of Margaret Spencer. Amelia was in the kitchen trying to figure out Cole's stove when she heard horses approaching. Through the window, she saw an elegant carriage pull up, driven by a uniformed coachman. The woman who stepped out was everything Cole had said, beautiful, polished, dressed in silk despite the rustic setting. Margaret Spencer had pale blonde hair arranged in perfect curls, a tiny waist, and the kind of delicate beauty that made men write poetry. She looked at the house with proprietary eyes, as if she already owned it. Amelia smoothed her simple dress and went to meet her. "You must be the new Mrs. Maddox," Margaret said, her voice cultured but cold. "How rustic. And you must be Mrs. Spencer. Cole mentioned you." "Did he?" Margaret's smile was sharp. "How much did he tell you, I wonder?" "Enough?" "I doubt that." She moved closer, her expensive perfume overwhelming. "Did he tell you we were lovers?" Amelia's stomach dropped, but she kept her face calm. "No." "Oh, yes. Before my husband died, of course. Cole was always so passionate. I assume he still is." "That's between my husband and me," Margaret laughed, tinkling and false. "Your husband. How quaint. Tell me, how much did he pay for you?" "I beg your pardon?" "Oh, come now." Everyone knows the story. Harrison Blackwood wanted you, and Cole swooped in with a better offer. So how much? I'm curious what Cole thinks a wife is worth. "Cole didn't buy me." "Of course not, dear. He rescued you. How romantic." Margaret's eyes were cruel. "But romance fades. And when it does, he'll remember what we had, what we could have again." "You're wrong." "Am I? I've known Cole for 5 years. You've known him for what? A month? Who do you think understands him better?" Before Amelia could respond, Cole appeared from the barn. His face darkened when he saw Margaret. "What are you doing here?" "Hello, darling," Margaret purred. "I came to meet your new bride." "She's not quite what I expected." Cole moved to stand beside Amelia, his hand on her back. "What do you want, Margaret?" "What I've always wanted. My rightful share of this ranch. Your husband left you well provided for." "He left me money. I want land. This land." She smiled. "Of course, there's an easy solution. Annul this hasty marriage and marry me instead. I'll make you a very rich man, Cole." "Not interested." "No? Even when I tell you I've found a judge who's willing to review my case, who thinks my claim has merit?" Cole tensed. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" "Judge Patterson in Helena. He's very sympathetic to widows, especially wealthy widows who contribute to his campaign." "Get off my land." "Our land, darling. At least it will be soon." She turned to Amelia. "You should know what you've gotten yourself into, dear. Cole needs this ranch more than he needs you. When push comes to shove, he'll choose the land. Men like him always do." She swept back to her carriage, leaving Amelia and Cole standing in tense silence. "Is it true?" Amelia asked. "About you and her?" "It was a long time ago. Before she married Spencer. It meant nothing." "It doesn't seem like nothing to her." Cole turned her to face him. "Margaret likes to own things. She thought she owned me once. She was wrong then, and she's wrong now." "What about the judge?" "I'll handle it. This is my problem, not yours. I'm your wife. Your problems are my problems." He smiled, the tension easing from his face. "Still getting used to that. Having someone on my side." "Get used to it. I'm not going anywhere." That afternoon, a rider arrived with a telegram. Cole read it, his face going pale. "What is it?" Amelia asked. "It's from your brother. Your father's dead." The world tilted. "What? How?" "Drank himself to death, apparently. Thomas found him this morning." Amelia sat down hard, emotions warring inside her. Grief, anger, guilt, relief. She felt them all at once. "I should go back," she said numbly. "We'll both go." "Cole, you don't have to." "You're my wife," he said simply. "Where you go, I go." They left the next morning, taking Jonas and Will with them. The journey back to Wyoming seemed longer than the journey from it. Amelia was quiet, lost in memories of the father he'd been before the drought, before her mother's death, before desperation drove him to betrayal. Cole didn't push her to talk, just stayed close, a steady presence when everything else felt unsteady. They reached the Cross Ranch 5 days later. It looked smaller than she remembered, more run down. Thomas was waiting on the porch, taller than when she'd left, older looking. "Amelia!" He ran to her and she caught him in a fierce hug. "I'm so sorry I wasn't here," she said. "It's not your fault." After you left, he just gave up. Started drinking more, stopped working. Blackwood foreclosed on the ranch last week. "What?" Said Pa owed him money. I tried to tell him Cole had paid the debt, but he had new papers. Said Pa had borrowed more. Cole's jaw tightened. "Where's the body?" "Cemetery. We buried him yesterday. Couldn't wait in this heat. They went to the grave together. It was a simple marker next to her mother's, and Amelia felt a pang that they were together again, even if their last years had been so bitter." "He loved you," Thomas said quietly. "At the end, he kept saying he was sorry, that he'd failed you." "He did fail me," Amelia said, "but I forgive him. He was weak, not evil." They stood in silence for a moment, then Thomas asked, "What happens now?" "You come with us," Cole said firmly. "If you want." Thomas looked at Amelia hopefully. "Really?" "Really," she confirmed. "You're my brother. We're family." That night they stayed in the empty ranch house one last time. Everything of value had been taken, but memories lingered in every corner. Amelia walked through the rooms, saying goodbye to her childhood, to the girl she'd been. She found Cole on the porch, watching the stars. "Thank you," she said, "for bringing me back, for offering Thomas a home. He's your family. That makes him my family." She studied his profile in the moonlight. "Do you ever wonder how different things would be if we'd met another way? If there had been no Blackwood, no debts? We might never have met at all. Or we might have met at a dance or in town. You might have courted me properly. Would you have wanted that? The proper courtship?" She thought about it. "No. I think I prefer our story. It's messier, but it's real." "No regrets?" "None." He pulled her against him, and they stood together watching the stars. Tomorrow they'd leave this place forever, taking Thomas with them. The ranch would become Blackwood's, but he'd won nothing that mattered. The land was dying, the wells running dry. Let him have his hollow victory. "There's something else," Cole said. "Margaret wasn't bluffing about the judge. I got a letter from my lawyer. The hearing is next month." "What will you do?" "Fight, but if I lose, we'll start over somewhere else." He looked at her in surprise. "You'd do that? Leave the ranch?" "Cole, I'd live in a tent on the prairie if it meant being with you. The ranch is just land. Your home." He kissed her then, deep and desperate, and for the first time she felt ready for more. But not here, not in this place full of ghosts. When they made love for the first time, she wanted it to be in their bed, in their home, their choice entirely. "When we get back," she whispered against his lips. "When we get back," he agreed. The journey home was different with Thomas along. He was full of questions, eager to learn, excited about his new life. Will took him under his wing, teaching him the finer points of working cattle. Jonas taught him songs. Cole taught him to read the land, to understand weather patterns and animal behavior. And Amelia watched her brother bloom, free from the weight of their father's failures. They were a day from home when they met the sheriff from Lewistown, riding out to meet them. "Cole," Sheriff Anderson said, tipping his hat. "Mrs. Maddox, I've got some news you need to hear." "What kind of news?" Cole asked warily. "Margaret Spencer is dead." The words hung in the air like smoke from a distant fire. Amelia felt Cole's body tense beside her, his hand instinctively moving to his gun. "How?" Cole asked, his voice carefully controlled. Sheriff Anderson shifted in his saddle. "Found her at the bottom of Miller's Gorge, about 10 miles from here. Her carriage went over the edge, horses too." "When?" 2 days ago. Her driver survived barely, said the brake line snapped." The sheriff's eyes were steady on Cole's face. "Thing is, that line looks like it might have been cut." Thomas, who'd been listening from atop his horse, spoke up. "You think someone killed her?" "I think it's mighty convenient," Anderson said. "Woman threatens to take a man's ranch, then ends up dead." "Are you accusing me of something, Sheriff?" Cole's voice was dangerously quiet. "I'm telling you what others are saying. Margaret had friends in high places. They're asking questions. I was in Wyoming. You can check. Plenty of witnesses. I know that. But you've got men here, loyal men. Jonas rode forward, his face hard. Sheriff, with all due respect, if you're suggesting any of us would murder a woman, I'm not suggesting anything. I'm warning you. There's going to be an investigation. Judge Patterson is particularly interested, given that he was supposed to hear her case next month. Amelia found her voice. What does this mean for us? Anderson looked at her with something like sympathy. It means you'd best watch your backs. Margaret Spencer had enemies, but she also had friends, powerful ones, and right now they're looking for someone to blame. After the sheriff left, they rode in tense silence. Amelia could feel the worry radiating from Cole, could see it in the set of his shoulders, the way he kept scanning the horizon. You didn't have anything to do with it, she said. It wasn't a question. No, but that might not matter. They reached the ranch as the sun was setting, painting the valley in shades of gold and crimson. Pete came out to meet them, his weathered face grim. Boss, we've got trouble. I heard. The sheriff found me. Not just that. There's a federal marshal here, been waiting 2 hours, says he needs to ask you some questions. Cole dismounted slowly, helping Amelia down. Take Thomas to the bunkhouse, he told Will. Get him settled. I want to stay with Amelia, Thomas protested. Not now, Amelia said gently. Go with Will. I'll come find you later. The marshal was waiting in the parlor, a thin man with sharp eyes and an expensive suit that looked out of place in the rustic room. He stood when they entered but didn't offer his hand. Mr. Maddox, I'm Marshal Briggs. I believe you know why I'm here. Margaret Spencer. Indeed. Where were you 4 nights ago? On the trail from Wyoming. At least a dozen men can verify that. And your men here? You'd have to ask them. Briggs pulled out a notebook. I intend to. Mrs. Maddox, you met Mrs. Spencer? Once, Amelia said. She came here the day after we arrived. What was the nature of that meeting? Amelia chose her words carefully. She wanted to discuss her claim on the ranch. She offered to resolve the matter if Cole would annul our marriage and marry her instead. I see. That must have been upsetting. It was unexpected. Mrs. Spencer suggested you were a purchased bride, that Mr. Maddox had bought you from Harrison Blackwood. Amelia felt heat rise in her cheeks. That's not true. But there was an arrangement with Blackwood. You were supposed to marry him? My father had made an agreement. I chose differently. And Mr. Maddox helped you make that choice? Cole stepped forward. Marshal, what exactly are you implying? I'm trying to understand the situation. A woman threatens your ranch, threatens your marriage, and then conveniently dies. You can see how that looks. It looks like an accident, unless you have proof otherwise. Briggs was quiet for a moment. The brake line was cut. That's proof of murder. But not proof of who did it. No, not yet. The marshal stood. I'll be staying in town for a few days, conducting my investigation. I trust you won't be leaving the area. We've got nowhere to go, Cole said flatly. After Briggs left, Cole poured himself a whiskey, downing it in one swallow. Amelia had never seen him drink like that before. This is bad, he said. They can't prove anything if you didn't do anything. Margaret had a lot of enemies. Any one of them could have killed her, but I'm the obvious suspect. He poured another drink. I should send you and Thomas away. Until this is settled. No. Amelia, no. We're not running. We're not splitting up. We face this together. He set down his glass and pulled her into his arms. I couldn't bear it if something happened to you because of this. Nothing's going to happen. We'll prove your innocence. How? I don't know yet. But we will. That night, she went to check on Thomas in the bunkhouse. He was sitting with the cowboys, listening to their stories, but his eyes were worried. Is Cole in trouble? He asked when she sat beside him. Maybe. But we'll figure it out. The way people were talking in town, they made it sound like Cole was some kind of killer. Old Pete spat tobacco juice into a can. Cole Maddox is the most honorable man I know. Been working for him 8 years. Never seen him hurt anyone, didn't deserve it. But that woman, Margaret Spencer, was a piece of work, Pete said. Came around here regular, making demands, threatening folks. She had her fingers in a lot of pies, not all of them legal. Amelia looked at him sharply. What do you mean? Pete glanced around, then lowered his voice. Word was she was involved with some land speculators, buying up failed ranches for pennies, then selling them to the railroad for big profits. The railroad's not coming through here. Not yet. But there's been surveyors around. Secret-like. But we've seen them. This was news to Amelia. Does Cole know? Told him last week. He didn't think much of it. But Amelia's mind was racing. If Margaret had been involved in land speculation, she might have had partners who wouldn't want their scheme exposed. Pete, do you know who she was working with? No, ma'am. But there's a lawyer in town, name of Garrett. He handled some of her deals. Might be worth talking to. The next morning, Amelia saddled her horse despite Cole's protests. Where are you going? To town. To ask some questions. Absolutely not. It's too dangerous. Cole, someone killed Margaret, and they're trying to frame you for it. We need to find out who and why. Let the marshal handle it. The marshal thinks you did it. He's not looking for other suspects. They argued for several minutes before Cole finally relented, but only on the condition that Jonas go with her. The ride to Lewistown took 2 hours. The town was bustling, full of ranchers and farmers come to market. But Amelia noticed the looks they got, the whispered conversations that stopped when they passed. Garrett's office was above the bank, a narrow room cramped with files and law books. The lawyer himself was a nervous man with thinning hair and sweaty palms. Mrs. Maddox, I heard you'd returned. Terrible business about Mrs. Spencer. Yes, terrible. Mr. Garrett, I understand you handled some of Margaret's business affairs? His eyes darted nervously. Some. Nothing important. Land deals? I couldn't say. Attorney-client privilege. She's dead. I don't think she'll mind. Still, I couldn't. Jonas stepped forward, his presence suddenly menacing despite his calm demeanor. Mr. Garrett, someone's trying to frame Mr. Maddox for murder. Now you can help us figure out who, or we can make sure Marshal Briggs knows you were Margaret's partner in what might be illegal land speculation. Garrett went pale. I wasn't. He slumped in his chair. All right. Yes, Margaret was buying up distressed properties. She had information about where the railroad was planning to build. Inside information. From who? I don't know. She never said. But someone high up in the railroad company. Who else knew about this? A few people. Harrison Blackwood, for one. Amelia's blood chilled. Blackwood was involved? He provided some of the capital. Margaret promised him huge returns. Garrett was sweating profusely now. After your marriage to Mr. Maddox, Blackwood was furious. Not just about losing you, but about losing his investment. Margaret had used his money to try to take the Maddox ranch. So Blackwood had reason to want her dead. More than that. She'd been avoiding him, not returning his messages. He came here last week, demanding to know where his money was. They had a terrible argument. Will you testify to this? Garrett shook his head frantically. I can't. Blackwood would kill me. He might have already killed Margaret. You don't understand. Blackwood owns half this town. The sheriff, the judge, even Marshal Briggs owes him favors. If I testify against him, I'm dead. They left Garrett's office with more questions than answers. On the street, Jonas stopped suddenly. We're being followed. Amelia didn't turn around. Who? 2 men. Been tailing us since we left Garrett's office. What do we do? Keep walking. Act normal. When we get to the horses, be ready to ride hard. They were almost to their horses when the men made their move. One stepped in front of them, hand on his gun. Mrs. Maddox, Mr. Blackwood would like a word. I have nothing to say to him. Wasn't a request, ma'am. Jonas's hand moved to his gun, but they were outnumbered and in the middle of town. Any violence would only make things worse for Cole. It's all right, Jonas, Amelia said. I'll hear what he has to say. They were escorted to the Grand Hotel, to to a suite on the top floor. Blackwood was waiting, looking older than when she'd last seen him, his face gaunt and his eyes bloodshot. "Amelia, you're looking well. What do you want, Harrison?" "Direct as always. Very well. I want you to convince your husband to confess to Margaret's murder." "You're insane." "Am I?" He had motive, opportunity through his men, and everyone knows he's capable of violence. Blackwood poured himself a brandy. A confession would make things neat and tidy. "He didn't kill her. You know that. What I know is that Margaret cost me a great deal of money. Money I can't recover if there's a lengthy investigation into her affairs." He turned to face her. "But if Cole confesses, claims it was a crime of passion, he might only get a few years. You'd be a widow, free to remarry." "Free to marry you, you mean?" "The offer stands." It's always stood. Amelia felt sick. "You killed her. You killed Margaret, and now you're trying to frame Cole for it." Blackwood's face darkened. "Careful, my dear. Accusations like that can be dangerous. Is that a threat?" "It's a fact. Your brother's working at the Maddox Ranch now, isn't he? Accidents happen to young cowboys all the time. The threat against Thomas made her blood boil. If you touch him, you'll what? You have no power here, Amelia. You never have. The only question is whether you'll be smart enough to take the deal I'm offering." "Go to hell." She turned to leave, but Blackwood grabbed her arm, his fingers digging in painfully. "You always were too stubborn for your own good, just like Catherine." "Your first wife? The one you murdered?" His grip tightened. "She fell down the stairs. After you pushed her." His hand moved to her throat, not squeezing yet, but the threat was clear. "You should be more careful, my dear. Stairs can be dangerous." Jonas burst through the door, gun drawn. "Let her go." Blackwood released her, stepping back with a cold smile. "Just having a conversation with an old friend." "Conversation's over," Jonas said. "Mrs. Maddox, we're leaving." They made it out of the hotel and onto their horses before Amelia started shaking. Jonas led them out of town quickly, watching for pursuit. "You all right?" he asked once they were clear. "He killed her. He killed Margaret and probably his first wife, too. Knowing it and proving it are different things. There has to be a way. Some evidence, some witness. Maybe. But Blackwood's right about one thing. He's got the power here. The law, the money, the influence. Then we need to find another kind of power." When they returned to the ranch, Cole was pacing the porch like a caged animal. The relief on his face when he saw them quickly turned to anger when he noticed the bruises forming on Amelia's arm. What happened? She told him everything: Garrett's revelations, Blackwood's threats, the encounter at the hotel. With each word, Cole's face grew darker. "I'm going to kill him." "No, that's exactly what he wants. Then he can frame you for both murders." "I won't let him threaten you. Or Thomas. We need to be smarter than that." She took his hands, feeling the tension thrumming through him. "Cole, I have an idea." That night she explained her plan to Cole, Jonas, Pete, and Thomas. It was risky, possibly illegal, and definitely dangerous. But it might be their only chance. "You want to break into Blackwood's office?" Thomas asked, eyes wide. "Not break in. I still have a key." She pulled out an old brass key. "From when I used to help with the books. Pa gave it to me, and I never returned it." "He'll have changed the locks," Pete pointed out. "Maybe. But Harrison's arrogant. He won't think I'd dare come back." "And what exactly are we looking for?" Cole asked. "Evidence. Financial records. Anything linking him to Margaret's death or his first wife's. Men like Blackwood always keep records. They can't help themselves." "It's too dangerous," Cole said immediately. "It's necessary. The marshal leaves town tomorrow. If we don't find something before then, you'll be arrested." They argued for an hour before Cole finally agreed, but only with conditions. He and Jonas would come with her. Thomas would stay at the ranch with Pete and the other cowboys, ready to ride for help if needed. They left at midnight, taking back roads to avoid detection. The moon was new, leaving them in almost complete darkness. They tied their horses a mile from town and approached on foot. Blackwood's office was in a building he owned on the edge of town. Most of his business was conducted at the ranch, but this was where he kept his official records. The building was dark, seemingly empty. The key still worked. Inside, they moved carefully, Cole keeping watch while Amelia and Jonas searched. The office was meticulous, everything in its place. File cabinets lined one wall, each labeled with cryptic abbreviations. "Here," Jonas whispered, pointing to a cabinet marked MS. Margaret Spencer. The files inside were damning. Contracts, correspondence, financial records showing the flow of money from Blackwood to Margaret and back again. But more importantly, there was a letter dated the day before Margaret's death. "Your continued failure to deliver the Maddox property has exhausted my patience. If you cannot handle this matter, I will resolve it myself. You have become a liability." It was signed by Blackwood. "This is it," Amelia breathed. "This proves he threatened her." "Take it all," Cole said. "We need to—" The door burst open. Blackwood stood there with 3 armed men, his face twisted with rage. "I thought you might try something like this. My man at the hotel saw you leave." His eyes fixed on the papers in Amelia's hands. "Those belong to me." "These prove you killed Margaret," Amelia said. "They prove nothing except that we had business dealings. Now give them to me." "No." Blackwood nodded to his men. "Kill Maddox and the Negro. Bring the woman." Everything happened at once. Cole drew and fired, dropping one man. Jonas tackled another. The third raised his rifle toward Cole. Amelia didn't think. She grabbed the letter opener from Blackwood's desk and threw it. It caught the gunman in the shoulder, spinning him around. His shot went wide, shattering a window. Blackwood lunged for her, but she dodged, clutching the papers. He grabbed her hair, yanking her back. Pain exploded through her scalp. "You always were too much trouble," he snarled. Cole's fist connected with Blackwood's jaw, sending him crashing into his desk. "Don't touch my wife!" The fight was brutal. Blackwood was older but heavier, and he fought dirty. Cole was faster, stronger, but he was trying to protect Amelia while fighting. Jonas had subdued his opponent and was helping with the third man when more gunfire erupted outside. Horses thundered up to the building. Amelia's heart sank. More of Blackwood's men. But it was Thomas who burst through the door, followed by Pete and 6 cowboys, all armed. "Thought you might need help," Thomas said, training his rifle on Blackwood. "I told you to stay at the ranch," Amelia said. "Since when do I listen?" Blackwood tried to reach for his gun, but Cole kicked it away. "It's over, Blackwood. You think you've won?" "I own the law here." "Not anymore," a new voice said. Marshal Briggs entered, followed by Sheriff Anderson and several deputies. But instead of arresting Cole, they surrounded Blackwood's men. "Harrison Blackwood, you're under arrest for the murder of Margaret Spencer." "This is ridiculous. You work for me." "Not anymore," Anderson said. "Mr. Garrett came to us an hour ago, told us everything. About the land speculation, the threats, all of it. He also told us about Catherine." Blackwood's face went white. "You can't prove anything about Catherine." "Maybe not. But Margaret's enough to hang you." Briggs took the papers from Amelia. "This letter, particularly. Threatening a woman who ends up dead the next day? That's hard to explain. She was blackmailing me." "So you killed her?" Blackwood realized his mistake too late. "I want a lawyer." "You'll get one. In federal prison." Briggs nodded to his deputies. "Take him." As they dragged Blackwood away, he turned to Amelia, his eyes full of hate. "This isn't over. I have friends, powerful friends. You'll never be safe." "We'll take our chances," Cole said, pulling Amelia against him. After the lawmen left with their prisoners, the group stood in the wreckage of Blackwood's office. Papers were scattered everywhere, furniture overturned, windows broken. "We should go," Pete said, "before someone else shows up." They retrieved their horses and rode back to the ranch as dawn broke. Amelia was exhausted, bruised, and exhilarated all at once. They'd done it. They'd proven Cole's innocence and exposed Blackwood's crimes. "You saved me," Cole said as they rode. Again. "We saved each other." Again. That letter opener throw was impressive. "I was aiming for his chest," hit his shoulder instead. Cole laughed. "Remind me to teach you to shoot properly." Back at the ranch, Cookie had breakfast waiting and coffee strong enough to wake the dead. The cowboys were full of questions, wanting to hear every detail of the fight. Mrs. Maddox threw a letter opener like one of them circus knife throwers, Jonas told them. Never seen anything like it. And Thomas here rode in like the cavalry, Pete added, clapping the boy on the back. Your timing was perfect, son. Thomas blushed but looked proud. I knew something would go wrong. Amelia's plans always need backup. Hey! Amelia protested, but she was smiling. As the sun climbed higher, Marshal Briggs arrived with news. Blackwood's confessed, he said, not to killing Margaret directly, but to hiring men to do it. He's also admitted to killing his first wife, though he claims it was an accident. What will happen to him? Amelia asked. He'll hang for Margaret. As for the rest. Briggs shrugged. His empire's already crumbling. His associates are distancing themselves. His debts are being called in. Harrison Blackwood is finished. After the marshal left, Cole and Amelia walked up to the hill behind the house, to the spot Cole had described that night on the trail. The view was spectacular. Mountains in every direction, the valley spread out below like a green carpet. It's over, Cole said. We're free. Free, Amelia repeated, tasting the word. I'm still getting used to it. You saved us. Your plan, your courage. Our plan, our courage. She took his hand. We're partners, remember? Partners. He pulled her close. Amelia, I need to tell you something. What? I love you, not as a business arrangement, not as a convenience. I love you completely. She looked up at him, this man who'd given her everything and asked for nothing in return, who'd protected her, trusted her, fought for her, who looked at her now with such vulnerability and hope. I love you too, she said, and meant it with every fiber of her being. He kissed her then, deep and passionate, and she felt the last walls between them crumble. When they broke apart, both were breathless. What happens now? She asked. Now we build a life. A real life, together. I want that bigger house you mentioned, with room for children. His eyes lit up. Children. Eventually, after we've had time to just be us for a while. I can wait. I'm good at waiting. You don't have to wait for everything, she said, her meaning clear. That night, for the first time, they truly became husband and wife. It was gentle and passionate by turns, a claiming and a giving, a promise made flesh. Afterward, they lay entwined, watching the stars through the window. No regrets? Cole asked, echoing his question from so long ago. Only one. He tensed. What? I wish we'd met sooner. Think of all the time we wasted. He relaxed, laughing softly. We have the rest of our lives to make up for it. The rest of our lives, she agreed. I like the sound of that. A month later, they received news that Blackwood had been hanged for Margaret's murder. His ranch and holdings were being sold to pay his debts. The Cross Ranch, it turned out, was among the properties. We could buy it, Cole suggested. For Thomas. No. That place holds too many bad memories. Let someone else have it. What about Thomas? He's happy here. He's learning, growing. When he's ready, we'll help him buy his own place. But for now, this is his home. Thomas had indeed flourished at the ranch. He worked hard, learned quickly, and the cowboys had adopted him as a younger brother. He was particularly close to Will, the two of them becoming inseparable friends. One evening, as Amelia was preparing dinner, she heard horses approaching. Through the window, she saw a familiar figure, Running Wolf, the crow leader who'd warned them about Morrison's men. Cole went out to greet him, and they talked for several minutes before Running Wolf gestured to Amelia. She joined them, curious. I came to see how the brave woman fares, Running Wolf said, the one who rode into the stampede. I'm well, thank you. The spirits told me you would defeat your enemy. They were right. He pulled something from his pack, a beautifully woven blanket. For your home. For the children who will come. Amelia accepted it gratefully. How do you know children will come? Running Wolf smiled. The spirits know many things. He looked at her meaningfully. The first will arrive with the spring flowers. After he left, Amelia stood frozen, hand on her stomach. Could it be? She'd been feeling tired lately, a bit queasy in the mornings. What did he mean? Cole asked. I think, I think I might be pregnant. Cole's face went through a series of expressions: shock, joy, fear, and back to joy. Really? I'm not sure. But maybe. He swept her into his arms, spinning her around. A baby. Our baby. Cole, put me down. If I am pregnant, you shouldn't be throwing me around. He set her down immediately, handling her like spun glass. Sorry, I'm just a baby. Amelia, this is wonderful. She visited the doctor in town the next week. Running Wolf had been right. She was indeed pregnant, due in the spring. The news transformed the ranch. Cookie immediately began planning nutritious meals for her. Pete started building a cradle in his spare time. The cowboys treated her like she might break, which drove her crazy. I'm pregnant, not dying, she told them repeatedly. Thomas was over the moon at the prospect of being an uncle. I'll teach him to ride and rope and… What if it's a girl? Amelia asked. Then I'll teach her to ride and rope even better. Winter came early that year, blanketing the valley in snow, but the house was warm, filled with laughter and love. Cole doted on Amelia, bringing her tea, rubbing her feet, talking to her growing belly. You're going to spoil me, she said one snowy evening. That's the plan. I'm still capable of doing things. I know, but let me take care of you. Please, it makes me happy. How could she argue with that? As spring approached and Amelia grew larger, they received an unexpected visitor. A young woman, perhaps 17, appeared at their door one day. She was thin, frightened, with bruises on her arms. Please, she said, I need help. I'm running from my husband. He hurts me. Amelia saw herself in the girl's desperate eyes. Without hesitation, she brought her inside. What's your name? Sarah Coleman. Over hot tea and cookies stew, Sarah told her story. Married at 15 to a man 3 times her age, beaten regularly, finally gathering the courage to run. He'll come looking for me, Sarah said fearfully. Then he'll find more than he bargained for, Cole said firmly. You're safe here. They gave Sarah a room, and she quickly became part of the ranch family. She helped Amelia with household tasks, learned to cook from Cookie, even started learning to read with Thomas's help. Sure enough, her husband came looking a week later. Ben Coleman was a brute of a man, drunk and angry. I want my wife, he shouted from the yard. Cole stepped onto the porch, rifle in hand. Behind him stood Jonas, Pete, Thomas, and half a dozen cowboys, all armed. She doesn't want to go with you. She's my property. She's a person, not property, and she's under my protection. Coleman went for his gun. He never cleared leather. Cole's shot knocked it from his hand, and Jonas's rifle barrel was suddenly pressed against his temple. You've got 2 choices, Cole said calmly. Leave now and never come back, or we bury you in the back 40. Your choice. Coleman looked at the assembled men, saw death in their eyes, and made the smart choice. He left, cursing and threatening, but he left. He'll be back, Sarah said tearfully. No, Sheriff Anderson said, riding up. He won't. Just got word from Nebraska. Coleman's wanted for murder there. I'll be taking him in. After Coleman was arrested, Sarah broke down crying, tears of relief and gratitude. You're free now, Amelia told her, holding the girl as she sobbed. Free to build whatever life you want. I don't know how. I've never been free before. Then we'll teach you. The way someone taught me. Spring arrived with a vengeance that year, bringing torrential rains that turned the creek into a raging river and made the roads nearly impassable. Amelia was grateful for the isolation. Her time was near, and she wanted nothing more than peace as she prepared to bring their child into the world. Sarah had blossomed in the months since her arrival, transforming from a frightened girl into a confident young woman. She'd taken over many of Amelia's duties as the pregnancy advanced, proving herself capable and eager to help. Thomas, for his part, had developed an obvious affection for her, though he tried desperately to hide it. You're staring again, Will teased him one evening as Thomas watched Sarah helping Cookie with dinner. I'm not staring. I'm just making sure she's all right. Sure you are, Will grinned, the same way I used to make sure Mrs. Maddox was all right before she married the boss. Thomas flushed red. That's different. Sarah's been through a lot. She needs friends, Not some fool making calf eyes at her. Maybe, Will said, but maybe what she needs is someone who sees her as more than just a victim. The conversation was interrupted by Amelia crying out from the house. Cole was beside her in an instant, his face white with concern. Is it time? I think so, she gasped, gripping his hand as another contraction rolled through her. The next hours were a blur of pain and determination. Sarah proved invaluable, having helped deliver babies back in her old community. She kept Amelia calm, Cole focused, and everyone else busy with tasks to keep them from panicking. Men, she muttered at one point, watching the cowboys pace nervously outside. You'd think they were the ones giving birth. The labor was long and difficult. Dawn was breaking when the baby finally arrived, screaming and perfect. A girl with her mother's dark hair and her father's green eyes. She's beautiful, Cole whispered, tears streaming down his face as he held his daughter for the first time. What should we name her? Amelia asked, exhausted but euphoric. Cole looked at the baby, then at his wife. Elizabeth, after your mother. Elizabeth Rose Maddox, Amelia agreed, touching the baby's tiny fingers. Little Beth. The ranch celebrated for 3 days straight. Cookie made his famous honey cakes, Jonas played his harmonica, and even the taciturn Pete was seen smiling as he presented the cradle he'd built, a masterpiece of craftsmanship that would last generations. Running Wolf arrived on the 4th day with gifts, a tiny pair of moccasins and a blessing for the child. She will be strong like her mother, he said, studying the baby's face, and wise like her father. But she will forge her own path. All I want is for her to be happy, Amelia said. Happiness comes from freedom, Running Wolf replied. You have given her that. Life settled into a new rhythm with Beth's arrival. The ranch work continued, but now with the soundtrack of baby cries and lullabies. Cole proved to be a devoted father, often found in the early morning hours walking the floor with Beth, singing Mexican songs his mother had taught him. Sarah had become indispensable, helping with the baby and the household while Amelia recovered. But changes were brewing there too. Thomas had finally worked up the courage to court her properly, and she'd accepted his attention with shy pleasure. They're young, Cole said one evening, watching Thomas teach Sarah to ride. We weren't much older when we married, Amelia pointed out. That was different. We were forced by circumstances. Were we? Or did circumstances just give us the push we needed? She shifted Beth to her other arm. Look at them, Cole. Look how happy they are. He had to admit she was right. Thomas had grown into a fine young man under their care, responsible and hardworking. And Sarah had found her strength, her voice, her joy. Together, they balanced each other perfectly. The question of their future was answered a month later when Sarah came to Amelia, eyes bright with excitement and fear. Thomas asked me to marry him. And? I said yes. But am I free to marry? My husband, ex-husband, he's in prison, not dead. Amelia had been researching this very question. Coleman was convicted of murder. In Nebraska, that dissolved your marriage automatically. You're free, Sarah, completely free. The young woman, burst into tears. Then I can really marry Thomas? For love, not because I have to? That's the only reason to marry, Amelia said, hugging her. The wedding was planned for late summer, giving them time to prepare and save money. Thomas had been working extra hours, determined to build Sarah a proper home on a piece of land Cole had offered them, close enough to help at the main ranch, but far enough to have their own life. But peace, Amelia had learned, never lasted long in Montana. The trouble started with missing cattle. Just a few at first, easily explained by natural causes. Then more disappeared, and Pete found evidence of riders driving them off. Rustlers, he said grimly. Professional ones by the look of it. Cole increased the night watches, but the thieves were clever, hitting different parts of the range, always staying one step ahead. Then Jonas was shot while on patrol. Not killed, thankfully, but wounded enough to be laid up for weeks. This is more than random rustling, Cole said, cleaning his rifle. Someone's targeting us specifically. The answer came in the form of a letter, delivered by a nervous young man who fled immediately after handing it over. "To Cole Maddox," Cole read aloud. "You took everything from me. My freedom, my fortune, my future. Now I will take everything from you. You know who I am." There was no signature, but they all knew. Harrison Blackwood had escaped from prison. "How?" Amelia asked, Beth fussing in her arms as if sensing her mother's distress. "Money, probably," Cole said. He still had friends, people who owed him favors. "What do we do?" "We protect what's ours." The ranch became an armed camp. No one rode alone. Sarah and Beth were never left unguarded, but Blackwood was patient, smart, and motivated by revenge. He had them looking over their shoulders constantly, jumping at shadows. The wedding approached under this cloud of threat. Thomas wanted to postpone, but Sarah refused. "I won't let him control our lives," she said firmly. "We're getting married as planned." The night before the wedding, Amelia couldn't sleep. She stood on the porch, watching the moonlit valley, when she heard it. Horses, moving quietly through the darkness. "Cole," she whispered, shaking him awake. "Someone's coming." He was up instantly, rifle in hand. Within minutes, the entire ranch was alert, men positioned at windows and doors. The attack came from 3 directions at once. Gunfire erupted, muzzle flashes lighting the darkness. Amelia huddled with Beth and Sarah in the bedroom, Cole's pistol heavy in her hand. "They're trying to burn the barn!" someone shouted. Through the window, Amelia could see flames beginning to lick at the structure. If they lost the barn, they'd lose their winter feed, their equipment, everything. "Stay here," she told Sarah, handing her the baby. "No matter what." She slipped out before Sarah could protest, making her way to the back door. The fighting was concentrated at the front of the house and the barn. If she could circle around, she nearly tripped over the man hiding in the shadows. He spun, raising his gun, and she saw his face in the moonlight. Harrison Blackwood. Older, gaunter, but unmistakably him. "Hello, my dear," he said, his smile cold. "Fancy meeting you here. The others are looking for you. Let them look. I came for you. You're the reason he fought so hard. Without you, he's nothing. You're wrong. Cole is 10 times the man you'll ever be. Perhaps. But he's about to be a widower." He raised his gun. Amelia dove sideways as he fired, the bullet splintering the wood where she'd been standing. She rolled, came up running, Blackwood pursuing. She burst into the barn. Empty now, the horses led out to safety. Smoke was beginning to fill the space as the fire spread along one wall. "Nowhere to run, Amelia," Blackwood called. She climbed the ladder to the hayloft, thinking desperately. Below, she could hear him searching, knocking over tools, cursing. Then she saw it. The pulley system Cole used to lift hay bales. The rope was right there, and below it, directly beneath where Blackwood was standing. She grabbed the rope and jumped. The counterweight system engaged, slowing her descent as the heavy block on the other end rose rapidly. Blackwood looked up just in time to see it coming. The block caught him square in the chest, sending him crashing into the wall. Amelia hit the ground hard but rolling, coming up as Blackwood struggled to rise, his gun lost somewhere in the hay. "You always were trouble," he wheezed, blood on his lips, "and you never learned when to quit." Cole burst through the door, saw Blackwood on the ground and Amelia standing over him. "Are you hurt?" "No, but he needs a doctor, or an undertaker." They bound Blackwood's hands, though he was too injured to fight. Outside, the battle was over. 2 of Blackwood's men were dead, the others captured or fled. The barn fire had been contained, though they'd lost a corner of the structure. Sheriff Anderson arrived at dawn with a federal marshal and a squad of deputies. They'd been tracking Blackwood since his escape, following the trail of destruction he'd left. "He won't escape again," the marshal promised. "He killed 2 guards breaking out. He'll hang for certain this time." As they led Blackwood away, he turned to look at Amelia one last time. "You could have had everything." "I do have everything," she replied. "Everything that matters." Despite the night's violence, or perhaps because of it, Thomas and Sarah's wedding that afternoon was particularly joyous. The entire community came, ranchers and townspeople alike, united in celebrating love triumphing over fear. Sarah was radiant in the dress Amelia had helped her make, and Thomas looked proud enough to burst as he waited at the altar. When the preacher pronounced them husband and wife, the cheer could probably be heard in the next county. "No one's taking you from me," Thomas told his bride. "Not ever." "I should hope not," Sarah laughed. "I've gotten quite comfortable here." At the reception, held in the yard of the main house, Cole pulled Amelia aside. "You could have been killed last night." "But I wasn't." "You took a terrible risk. To protect our home, our family. Wouldn't you have done the same?" He couldn't argue with that. "You're going to give me gray hair before I'm 40. You'll be distinguished. Very handsome." "Amelia?" She kissed him quiet. "No more looking back. Blackwood's gone for good this time. We're free to just live." And they did. The years that followed were not without challenges. Harsh winters, dry summers, the occasional predator or rustler, but they faced them together, their partnership growing stronger with each trial. Beth grew into a spirited child who could ride before she could properly walk, much to her parents' mingled pride and terror. She was joined by a brother, James, and then another sister, Mary. The house Cole had once thought too large was soon bursting with life and laughter. Thomas and Sarah built their own home on the adjoining land, raising cattle and children with equal success. Their eldest son was named Samuel, after Amelia's father, a gesture of forgiveness that would have touched the old man's heart. Jonas recovered fully from his wound and eventually became foreman when Pete retired. Will found love with a school teacher from town and started his own small spread nearby. Cookie continued to terrorize and feed cowboys in equal measure until he was well into his 70s. The Double C Ranch prospered, becoming one of the most successful in Montana. But more than that, it became a haven. Other women in Sarah's situation found their way there, seeking protection and a new start. Some stayed, becoming part of the extended ranch family. Others moved on once they found their feet, but they never forgot the kindness they'd received. One autumn evening, 15 years after that desperate flight from Wyoming, Amelia stood on the hill behind the house, the same spot where Cole had first told her he loved her. The bigger house he'd promised stood there now, built with their own hands and filled with their children's laughter. Cole joined her, his arms settling around her waist with familiar comfort. There was indeed some gray in his hair now, and lines around his eyes from years of squinting into the sun. But he was still the same man who'd offered a desperate girl freedom all those years ago. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. "The day we met. How young and frightened I was." "You were never frightened. Angry, maybe. Desperate, but never frightened." "I was terrified," she admitted. "But then this cowboy rode up and offered to protect me. Best decision I ever made. Even with all the trouble I brought? Especially with all the trouble." He turned her to face him. "You brought me to life, Amelia. Before you, I was just existing, going through the motions. You saved me. We saved each other. That's what partners do." Below them, they could see their children playing in the yard. Beth was trying to teach James to rope while Mary sat on the fence, laughing at their efforts. Thomas and Sarah's children had joined them, the cousins as close as siblings. "Look what we built," Amelia said softly. "A life. A good life. Free," she added. "A free life." As the sun set behind the mountains, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson, they stood together watching their empire, not of money or power, but of love and family and freedom. The girl who'd been sold like cattle and the cowboy who'd offered protection had become so much more to each other. Partners, lovers, parents, free. The sound of Cookie's dinner bell echoed across the valley, and children's voices called for their parents. Hand in hand, Cole and Amelia walked down the hill toward their home, their family, their chosen life. Behind them, the mountains stood eternal guard, witnesses to a love that had grown from desperation into something unshakable. And in the growing darkness, the first stars appeared, bright with promise for all the years to come. Some stories end with happily ever after, but this one ends with something better. Happily ever after, by choice. For in the end, that was what Cole had given Amelia, and what she had given him in return. The freedom to choose their own happiness, to build their own future, to love without conditions or constraints. The ranch would continue to grow. The children would have their own adventures, their own loves, their own choices to make. There would be grandchildren and great-grandchildren, each carrying forward the legacy of courage and freedom that began when a desperate girl met a principled cowboy. But that night, as the Maddox family gathered around the dinner table, 3 generations strong, the only thing that mattered was this. They were together. They were free. And they had chosen this life. Every beautiful, difficult, perfect moment of it. Cole raised his glass for a toast, his eyes finding Amelia's across the table. To freedom, he said. To choices, she countered. To family, Beth added, wise beyond her 15 years. To love, Sarah said, her hand finding Thomas's. To the future, Thomas declared. To home, little Mary piped up, not quite understanding but wanting to participate. They drank, water and milk for the children, wine for the adults, and the conversation resumed, flowing around the table like the creek that ran through their land, constant and life-giving. Outside, the Montana night settled over the valley, vast and star-filled. The cattle lowed softly in the pastures. Horses nickered in the barn. And in the big house on the hill, surrounded by those they loved and who loved them in return, Cole and Amelia Maddox continued writing their story. A story that had begun with desperation and bloomed into something beautiful. Not because it was perfect, not because it was easy, but because it was chosen, fought for, and cherished every single day. And in the end, that made all the difference. Years later, when Beth was grown and facing her own choices, she would ask her mother how she'd found the courage to run that night, to trust a stranger with her life. Amelia would think of that scared girl on the porch, of the cowboy with kind eyes and steady hands, of all the moments that had led from there to here. Sometimes, she would tell her daughter, the bravest thing you can do is accept help. And sometimes, the greatest love stories begin not with romance, but with respect. Your father offered me protection when I needed it most. But more than that, he offered me the chance to become myself. That's the rarest gift of all. Beth would nod, understanding flowing between them, the understanding of women who knew their own worth, who would never settle for less than partnership, less than respect, less than freedom. And the story would continue, passed down through generations, of the cowboy who said, "I'll protect her," and meant it, and the woman who took that protection and transformed it into strength, partnership, and a love that would echo through the ages. In the vast tapestry of the American West, where legends were born from grit and determination, the story of Cole and Amelia Maddox would stand as testament to a simple truth, that love freely chosen is the strongest force of all, and that sometimes the best families are the ones we build from the ashes of what tried to break us. The end.